The satisfying crack of palm against flesh echoed through Second Dawn Café.
Sure, 2 milkshakes.
Derek Holloway's hand connected with Jasmine Carter's face so hard she stumbled backward into the counter. "You think you can steal from me?" His voice cut through the breakfast rush like a blade. 20 customers froze mid-bite. Jasmine's 8-year-old son Malik sat in a corner booth, birthday candles melting into his untouched cake, watching his mother's tears fall. Derek grabbed her collar, twisted. "Tip money goes in the jar. Where's my $30? That 30 was her last cash, saved for 2 weeks, for her baby's birthday dinner. But the man in the worn leather jacket, the one nursing a cold cola in the corner booth, he wasn't just watching, he was recording. And his name was Marcus Williams, the owner. What happens in the next 60 seconds will destroy everything Derek thinks he controls. Subscribe and then now follow this story to the end and comment your city below so I can see how far this journey takes us. Jasmine Carter tasted blood. The inside of her cheek had split against her teeth when Derek's palm connected. She pressed her hand to her face, felt the heat spreading across her skin, and didn't cry. She'd learned that lesson 8 months ago. Crying made it worse. "I asked you a question." Derek Holloway stepped closer, his polished shoes clicking against the linoleum. "The tip jar had $70 at 7 a.m. Now it's got 40. Where's my money?" "I didn't take anything, sir." "Sir?" Derek laughed. It was a cold sound, hollow, like wind through an empty building. "I love how polite you get when you're lying to me." "I'm not lying. I was making change for table 6. The customer needed—" Derek grabbed her wrist, twisted. Jasmine gasped, her knees buckling. "One phone call," he whispered in the suku, leaning so close she could smell the coffee on his breath, the mint he'd chewed to cover it. "One phone call to child services, and little Malik spends tonight in a group home. Single mother, night shifts, kid alone sometimes." "How does that look on a report, Jasmine?" Her whole body went rigid. "Please, please don't." "Then stop lying." "I swear to God, I didn't take one, Mama." The small voice cut through everything. Malik stood 3 feet away, his Spider-Man backpack hanging off one shoulder, his eyes wide and confused and scared. "Mama, why is the man hurting you?" Jasmine's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. "Baby, go sit down. Mama's fine." "But he's sit down, Malik, now, please." The boy retreated to his booth. His birthday cake sat there, 8 candles drowned in melted wax, frosting ruined. He'd been waiting 2 hours for his party. 2 hours of watching his mother work while his cake slowly destroyed itself. Derek released Jasmine's wrist, straightened his tie, smoothed his hair. "Get back to work," he said, pleasant now professional. "And Jasmine, next time I ask you a question, think very carefully before you answer." "Yes, sir." She walked toward the kitchen on legs that didn't work right. She didn't look at Malik. If she looked at her son, she would break, and she couldn't afford to break. In the corner booth, a man in a worn leather jacket set down his cola. He'd been sitting there for 47 minutes, ordered coffee at 7:13, switched to cola at 8, eaten nothing, just watched, just listened, just recorded. His name was Marcus Williams, and this was his restaurant. 3 years ago, Marcus had stood at the front counter of Second Dawn Café and given a speech to his staff. He'd told them this place was more than a business. It was a family, a sanctuary, a second chance for people who needed one. He'd meant every word. Now, he watched a man he'd trusted slap a woman he'd promised to protect, and something fundamental cracked inside his chest. Marcus had built this diner with his grandmother's recipes and his mother's life savings. 23 years of work, 60-hour weeks, learning to cook, to clean, to manage to survive. He'd hired people nobody else would touch. Ex-convicts fresh off parole. Single mothers with gaps in their resumes. Immigrants with dreams and nowhere else to go. The newspapers called him a hero. Business magazines put him on covers. Universities paid him to speak about conscious capitalism, about doing well by doing good. He'd believed his own hype. But success demanded a price he hadn't anticipated. More speeches meant more travel. More travel meant more time away from Detroit, away from his daughter Zara, away from this diner, away from everything that mattered. So he'd hired Derek Holloway to run things. Derek had walked into Second Dawn 4 years ago with everything he owned in a garbage bag, homeless for 11 months after a felony fraud conviction destroyed every job application he submitted. Marcus hired him to wash dishes. Derek showed up early, stayed late, learned the business from the ground up. 3 years ago, Marcus promoted him to general manager. "Nobody ever believed in me before," Derek had said, tears running down his face. "I won't let you down, Mr. Williams. I promise you that." Marcus had believed him. Now Derek stood behind the counter, counting the tip jar with practiced efficiency. He wrote a number in a small leather notebook. $70. Then he peeled off 3 20s, slipped them into his pocket, and wrote a different number in the official log. $40. $30 stolen in 15 seconds. Marcus's hands trembled beneath the table. He wanted to stand up, walk across the room, grab Derek by his expensive collar, but he didn't move. Because Marcus wasn't supposed to be here. He was supposed to be in Chicago, keynoting a conference on workplace equity. That's what Derek believed. That's what everyone believed. 5 days ago, Marcus had received an anonymous text. 3 words, check your people. He'd been getting messages like that for weeks. Different numbers, always blocked, always the same warning. He'd ignored them at first, told himself it was nothing, told himself Derek had everything under control. Then he pulled the employee retention data. 6 months ago, 12% annual turnover. Industry standard. Current 47%. Nearly half his staff had quit in 6 months. Derek's explanation in the weekly reports: normal churn, personal reasons, better opportunities. 47% wasn't normal. 47% was a catastrophe. Marcus had canceled his speech. Booked a red-eye to Detroit. Checked into a motel 6 blocks from the diner under a fake name. Bought a worn jacket from Goodwill. Dug out his grandfather's old Tigers cap. Found reading glasses he didn't need. This morning at 6:58, he'd walked into his own restaurant as a stranger. What he'd seen in 47 minutes had hollowed him out. Derek finished with the tip jar and walked toward the kitchen. Jasmine was there, leaning against the walk-in freezer's shoulders, shaking with sobs she was trying to hide. "Jasmine." She spun around, wiped her face, straightened her spine. "Yes, sir." "Your shift ends at 3, but we're short tonight, so you're closing at 11, then opening tomorrow at 4 a.m. Jasmine's face went pale. "Sir, that's only 5 hours between shifts. I have to get Malik from my sister's house, and he has school in the morning, and figure it out." "But, did I ask for your opinion?" Her jaw tightened. Her eyes went dead. "No, sir." "Good. And Jasmine," Derek smiled, warm and friendly and utterly false. "That birthday cake your son brought in, that's a health code violation. Outside food in a commercial kitchen. I'll have to document this incident. It was for his birthday. He wanted to celebrate with me because I couldn't get the day off. Save it. One more violation and we'll have a serious conversation about whether this job fits someone with your situation." He paused, let the threat settle. "Your caseworker is still monitoring your custody arrangement, isn't she?" Something died in Jasmine's eyes, the last spark of fight extinguished. "Yes, sir." "Then get back to work. Tables 7 and 12 need clearing." She walked back to the dining room, past Malik's booth without looking. If she looked, she would shatter. And she couldn't afford to shatter. Marcus watched her move through the restaurant like a ghost. Watched Malik stare at his ruined birthday cake with eyes that understood too much for 8 years old. Watched Derek pour himself a coffee, check his phone, laugh at something on the screen. His phone buzzed. Anonymous number. "You're seeing it now, but this is nothing. Wait until you find out about the files." Marcus typed back, "What files?" "Ask Tanya. Storage room. 6 a.m. tomorrow. She's been waiting 14 months for you to come home." The number disconnected. Marcus looked around the diner. Tanya Brooks was at the register counting change with trembling hands. Mid-30s, but she looked decades older. Dark circles under her eyes like bruises that never healed. She glanced up. Their eyes met for half a second. Then she looked away. She knew. Somehow, she knew who he was. At 9:15, Derek called a staff meeting, right there in the dining room in front of customers, in front of everyone. "Gather around, people. Quick announcements." The staff assembled. 6 servers, 2 line, cooks, a dishwasher, a prep cook. They stood in a loose semicircle, heads down, shoulders hunched, the body language of prisoners. "First item," Derek said, checking his clipboard. "Sales are down 8% from last month. That's unacceptable. Starting today, every server pushes the premium menu items. Steak and eggs, the seafood omelet. Anyone whose average ticket drops below $18 gets their hours cut." Questions. Nobody spoke. Good. Second item. Derek's eyes found the line cook, a young black man named Jerome Washington. Tattoos up both forearms. Kitchen burns on his hands. "Jerome, step forward." Jerome moved like a man walking to his own execution. "You requested next Saturday off," Derek said. "Your daughter's birthday, you said." "Yes, sir. I put in the request 3 weeks ago." "Request denied." Jerome's hands curled into fists. He forced them open. "Sir, I haven't missed a Saturday in 14 months. I've worked every holiday, every double shift. I just need one day. What you need, Derek interrupted, is to remember your situation. He smiled, pleasant, friendly, poisonous. I had a nice chat with your parole officer yesterday. Officer Martinez, right? He was very interested in your performance here. Said he relies on my reports to know if you're staying on the right track. Jerome's face went gray. One bad report, Derek continued, and your parole gets revoked. How many years do you have left on that sentence, Jerome 5-6? 5 years, 8 months, sir. 5 years, 8 months? That's a long time to be away from your daughter, missing all those birthdays? Derek shrugged. But I'm sure we won't have any problems, will we? No, sir? Good. You can go back to work. Jerome retreated to the kitchen. Through the window, Marcus could see him gripping the counter knuckles, white chest heaving. Third item? Derek's eyes moved to Maria Santos, the prep cook. Small woman, early 40s, quick hands, terrified eyes. Maria, come here. Maria stepped forward. Her whole body was trembling. Your mother's visa appointment is next month, Derek said. The one you've been waiting 3 years for. Exciting, right? Yes, sir. Very exciting. I've been thinking about community responsibility, about how neighbors should look out for each other. Don't you agree? Yes, sir. Good, because I've noticed some things about your mother's living situation, some irregularities. Nothing serious, probably, but you know how immigration gets about irregularities. One anonymous tip and they start investigating everything. Maria's face crumpled. Please, sir, she's 67 years old. She's done nothing wrong. I'm sure she hasn't. I'm just saying it would be terrible if her appointment got complicated by unnecessary questions. Derek patted her shoulder. But we're friends, aren't we? Maria, friends look out for each other. So I'm sure you'll be happy to pick up those extra shifts this week. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 6 a.m. to midnight. Maria's voice was barely audible. Yes, sir. Excellent. That's the team spirit I love. Back to work, everyone. The staff dispersed. Nobody looked at each other, nobody spoke. They just scattered like animals fleeing a predator. Marcus felt sick, physically, violently sick. This wasn't management. This wasn't even cruelty. This was systematic destruction. Derek had weaponized everyone's vulnerability. Parole officers, immigration status, custody battles. He'd built a prison without walls, and Marcus's diner was the cell. A customer at table 4 waved for the check. Marcus recognized him. Local business owner came in every Tuesday. The man had been watching Derek's performance with undisguised disgust. Excuse me, the customer said to Jasmine as she brought his bill. Is that manager always like this? Jasmine's face went carefully blank. I don't know what you mean, sir. The way he talks to you people, it's not right. Everything's fine, sir. Will that be cash or card? The customer stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head, pulled out his credit card, and said nothing else. Jasmine processed his payment with mechanical efficiency, but Marcus saw her hands shaking, saw the way she glanced toward Derek's office, saw the fear. This was what his grandmother's legacy had become. A house of terror wearing the mask of a family restaurant. At 11 o'clock, the morning rush finally slowed. Marcus stood up, pretended to stretch, walked toward the restrooms. On his way, he passed the tip jar. He counted quickly. $82. He made a mental note and continued to the bathroom. Inside, he splashed water on his face, stared at his reflection in the mirror. His grandmother's voice echoed in his mind. Ruth Williams dead 3 years now, but her words still lived in his bones. Baby, when you feed people, you feed their souls. Don't ever forget that. He'd forgotten. He'd gotten so caught up in speeches and conferences and standing ovations that he'd forgotten the people who needed him most. His phone buzzed. Text from Tanya. He's selling our information. Payday lenders collection agencies. $50 per name. Check his computer tonight. Marcus typed back, how do I get in? Storage room. 6 a.m. I'll give you everything. He returned to his booth. Ordered lunch he didn't eat. Watched Derek work the floor, all charm with customers, all venom with staff. The transformation was seamless. Terrifying. At 1:30, something happened that almost blew Marcus's cover. A delivery driver walked in a young man Marcus had hired 2 years ago for the Tuesday and Thursday lunch routes. The driver saw Marcus stopped dead and his face lit up with recognition. Mr. Will? Marcus shook his head sharply. Just once. The driver's mouth snapped shut. Derek appeared from his office. Can I help you? Delivery, the driver said, recovering quickly. Produce order. Take it around back. Maria will sign for it. The driver nodded, gave Marcus one last confused glance, and disappeared through the kitchen. Marcus's heart was pounding. That was close. Too close. Derek walked past his booth, paused, looked at him. "Everything okay, sir? You've been here a while." Marcus kept his voice neutral, his face blank. "Just enjoying the atmosphere. Reminds me of a place my mother used to take me when I was a kid." Derek smiled. "That's what we like to hear. Can I get you anything else?" "No, thank you. Just the check when you get a chance." Derek nodded and moved on. Marcus exhaled slowly. His hands were trembling. He paid his bill, left a $20 tip for Jasmine, and walked out. The bell above the door chimed as he left. Outside, the Detroit afternoon was gray and cold. Marcus walked 3 blocks before he allowed himself to feel anything. Then he leaned against a brick wall and let the rage wash over him. $400,000. That's what his accountant had estimated in stolen wages. $400,000 taken from people who couldn't afford to lose a dime. People he'd promised to protect, and the money was only part of it. Derek had built a system of control so complete, so brutal, that 14 employees were afraid to speak, afraid to complain, afraid to even look at each other. Marcus pulled out his grandmother's recipe card. Worn paper, faded ink, her handwriting still beautiful after all these years. Sweet potato pie. Fresh roasted sweet potatoes mashed smooth. Real butter, not margarine. Brown sugar, not white. Cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla extract. Feed people with love, and love comes back. He'd ordered a slice of the pie yesterday, his first day of reconnaissance. One bite and he'd known something was wrong. Canned filling. Margarine, no cinnamon. The soul of his grandmother's recipe gutted for profit margins. His phone buzzed. Text from his daughter, Zara. "Dad, you missed video call tonight. Everything okay?" He typed back, "Sorry, sweetheart. Work emergency. I'll explain soon. Love you." "Love you too, but you've been weird lately. Is something wrong?" "Nothing I can't fix. Promise." He walked back to his motel. Room 217? Bare walls, thin carpet, a window overlooking the parking lot. He spread his notes across the bed. Everything he'd witnessed. Times, amounts, exact words. The tip jar theft. The scheduling abuse. The threats about parole officers' immigration custody. All documented. But he needed more. He needed the files Tanya had mentioned. He needed proof that would hold up in court, that would justify criminal charges, that would destroy Derek Holloway so completely he could never hurt anyone again. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., storage room. Marcus set his alarm and tried to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Jasmine's face when Derek grabbed her wrist, saw Malik's confusion, saw his grandmother in her hospital bed gripping his hand, making him promise. "Don't ever forget, baby. Promise me." "I promise, Grandma." He'd broken that promise, but starting tomorrow, he would keep it again, or die trying. The motel clock read 5:47 a.m. when Marcus pulled on his jacket and headed out into the darkness. Second Dawn Café was 6 blocks away. The streets were empty except for delivery trucks and early commuters. Detroit was just waking up, the sky pink at the edges, the air sharp with autumn cold. Marcus walked with his head down, hands in his pockets. Just another working man heading to an early shift. Anonymous. Invisible. The cafe's back door was propped open with a brick. A figure stood in the shadows. Female, dark hair, early 30s. When Marcus approached, she stepped into the light. Tanya Brooks. Her eyes were red-rimmed, swollen. She'd been crying. But her voice was steady when she spoke. "Mr. Williams, thank you for coming." Marcus stopped. "How long have you known?" "Since you walked in yesterday morning. The way you hold your coffee cup. The way you look at people." She almost smiled. "Nobody looks at us like we matter anymore, except you." "Why didn't you say something?" "I needed to know you were really here, that you weren't going to disappear again." Tanya's voice cracked. "I've been sending those texts for 6 weeks. Different phones, burner numbers. I didn't know if you'd ever see them." "I saw them." "I know. You came." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I've been waiting 14 months, Mr. Williams. 14 months of watching him destroy people. 14 months of being too scared to do anything." "Why didn't you call me directly?" Tanya laughed, bitter and broken. "Because he monitors everything. Emails, phone calls, text messages. He's got someone at corporate who forwards him every complaint. Every time someone tries to report him, Derek knows within 24 hours. Marcus's blood went cold. "Someone at corporate? I don't know who, but 2 employees tried calling the head office 6 months ago. Derek found out the same day. One got fired the next morning for stealing. The other had her hours cut from 40 to 8 until she quit." "How does he know?" "Someone's feeding him information, someone with access to the complaint system." Tanya wiped her eyes. That's why I used anonymous texts. That's why I waited until you came in person. Phone calls and emails aren't safe." This was worse than Marcus had imagined. Not just a corrupt manager, a network, a system of surveillance and control that extended beyond the diner itself. "Show me everything, Ukon," he said. Tanya led him inside. Through the dark kitchen past the walk-in freezer to a small storage room at the back. She turned on a single light and closed the door. "I made copies," she said, pulling a folder from behind a stack of paper towels. 6 months ago when I realized what he was doing. I've been too scared to use them." She handed him the folder. Marcus opened it. Time cards, 2 sets, one labeled official, while one labeled real. Jasmine Carter, official 40 hours, real 68 hours, 28 hours stolen. Jerome Washington, official 40 hours, real 52 hours, 12 hours stolen. Maria Santos, official 40 hours, real 61 hours, 21 hours stolen. Tanya Brooks, official 40 hours, real 54 hours, 14 hours stolen. Page after page. Every employee 2 different numbers. The theft was systematic, documented, undeniable. "There's more," Tanya said. She pulled out another folder. His leverage files. Marcus opened it. His hands started shaking. Jasmine Carter. Bench warrant for unpaid parking tickets. Custody case still open. Caseworker conducts monthly home visits. Pressure points child services threat arrest threat. Jerome Washington. Parole until 2031. Officer Martinez conducts bi-weekly check-ins. Employer reports influence parole status. Pressure points parole revocation return to prison. Maria Santos. Mother Rosa undocumented visa application pending. ICE tip line reference number saved. Pressure points deportation threat visa denial. Every employee had a page. Every page listed their deepest vulnerability and how Derek planned to exploit it. "He calls them insurance policies," Tanya whispered. "Says as long as he has these files, nobody will ever talk." Marcus felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. "What's yours?" Tanya was quiet for a long moment. "My daughter, LaToya. She's 16. Last year she got arrested for shoplifting. Stupid mistake, bad friends, you know how kids are." Tanya's voice broke. "Derek found out. Said if I ever complained about anything, he'd make sure her record followed her forever. Said he'd call every college, every employer, every scholarship committee. Said he'd destroy her future before it started." "Has he contacted anyone?" "Not yet, but he reminds me every week. Every single week, Mr. Williams." Tears streamed down her face. "I just wanted to protect my baby. That's all I wanted." Marcus reached out, took her hand. "I'm going to stop him." "How? He has files on everyone. He has someone at corporate. He has Bumbwe. I'm going to need to get into his office tonight after closing. Can you help me?" Tanya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small key. "His desk, bottom drawer. 6 months ago I made a copy. I've been too scared to use it." She pressed the key into his palm. "Everything is in there. The real ledger, the contracts, everything." "What contracts?" Tanya's face darkened. "He's been selling us. Our names, phone numbers, social security numbers. $50 per referral to payday loan companies, debt collectors, anyone who'll pay. Some of us have gotten dozens of calls from places we never contacted." Marcus stared at the key in his hand. Small, ordinary, but it felt like a loaded weapon. "There's something else," Tanya said. "I didn't want to tell you over text. I needed you to hear it in person." "What?" "He's planning to take the restaurant." Marcus's head snapped up. "What do you mean, take it?" "I overheard him on the phone 2 weeks ago. He was talking to someone about an acquisition. Said the owner was absent, the business was profitable, and he could deliver it with compliant staff already in place." Tanya's voice was barely a whisper. "He's going to steal Second Dawn, Mr. Williams. Steal it right out from under you." For a moment, Marcus couldn't breathe. His grandmother's restaurant, his mother's investment, his life's work. Derek wasn't just stealing wages. He was planning to steal everything. "Does he know you heard?" "No, I was in the storage room. He didn't see me." "Who was he talking to?" "I don't know, but they're meeting this Friday, after the anniversary celebration." Tanya grabbed his arm. "You have to stop him before then. If he signs whatever deal he's making, it might be too late." Marcus looked at the key in his hand, at the files spread across the storage room floor, at Tanya's tear-stained face. 3 days. He had 3 days to gather evidence, build a case, and destroy Derek Holloway. "The anniversary celebration," he said slowly. That's Wednesday night, isn't it? 2 days from now. Yes, Derek's invited press, local politicians. He's trying to raise his profile for whatever he's planning. Marcus's mind was racing. A public event, cameras, witnesses, the perfect stage. Tanya, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Get everyone together, everyone who's been hurt by Derek. Tell them to be at the anniversary celebration Wednesday night. Tell them to be ready. Ready for what? To watch me tear his world apart. Tanya stared at him. You're going to confront him in front of everyone. He humiliated people in public, threatened them in public, destroyed them in public. Marcus's voice was ice. He's going to answer for it in public. He'll deny everything. He'll lie. Marcus held up his phone, showing the photos he'd taken of the files. I have 14 months of documented theft. His own handwriting, his own records. Let him try to lie his way out of that. Tanya's face transformed. For the first time in years, maybe hope flickered in her eyes. I'll tell them, she said. Everyone. They'll be there. Good. Now I need to get into his office tonight, get the rest of the evidence. After closing, 11:30, I'll prop the back door. They finalized the plan, memorized the details, prepared for everything that could go wrong. Then Tanya checked the time. I have to start my shift. Derek gets here at 7. Between. She turned to leave. At the door, she stopped. Mr. Williams? Yes. Thank you for coming back, for seeing us. Her voice was barely a whisper. We were starting to think nobody would ever help. She disappeared into the dark kitchen. Marcus stood alone in the storage room, the key clutched in his fist. The files burned into his memory, his grandmother's recipe card pressed against his heart. 2 days until the anniversary celebration. 2 days until Derek Holloway learned what happened when you betrayed the man who saved you. 2 days until justice. Marcus slipped out the back door and walked to his motel through the waking Detroit streets. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. I know what you're planning. Be careful. He has more secrets than you know. The office isn't safe, but the safe is. Marcus typed back, Who is this? The response came immediately, a friend. The combination is his mother's birthday, December 12, 1955. What you find inside will change everything. Then, burn him down, Mr. Williams. Burn him to the ground. The number disconnected. Marcus stared at the message. Someone else knew. Someone else was helping. The network of resistance was larger than he'd realized. He walked faster. His grandmother's recipe card felt like fire against his chest. Wednesday night, the anniversary celebration, cameras and politicians and press. And in front of all of them, Derek Holloway would answer for every stolen dollar, every broken spirit, every whispered yes, sir, every life he'd crushed under his heel. 2 days. Marcus was counting every hour. The night air was cold against his face as he reached the motel. Room 217. He'd been in Detroit for 48 hours, and he'd uncovered enough corruption to put Derek away for years. But something told him the worst was yet to come. The safe. Whatever Derek was hiding in that safe, it was bigger than stolen wages. Bigger than leverage files. Bigger than anything Marcus had imagined. He set his alarm for 8 hours to rest, to plan to prepare. Tonight he would break into Derek's office. Tonight he would open the safe. And tomorrow he would know exactly what kind of monster he was dealing with. Marcus lay down on the thin motel mattress and closed his eyes. His grandmother's voice echoed in the darkness. Feed people with love, baby, and love comes back. Love was coming back, but first, justice had to arrive. The clock on the motel wall read 10:47 p.m. when Marcus's phone buzzed. Tanya's message was simple. He's gone. Back door open. Hurry. Marcus grabbed his jacket, checked the key in his pocket, and stepped into the cold Detroit night. 6 blocks to Second Dawn Café. 6 blocks to the truth. He walked fast, head down, hands in his pockets. The streets were nearly empty. A few cars passed. A homeless man pushed a shopping cart down the opposite sidewalk. Nobody looked twice at Marcus. Nobody ever looked twice at a black man in a worn jacket walking through Detroit at night. The cafe's back alley was dark. The streetlight above the dumpster had burned out months ago, and nobody had bothered to replace it. Marcus found the back door propped open, with a brick just as Tanya had promised. He slipped inside. The kitchen was pitch black, except for the red glow of emergency exit signs. The smell of old grease and coffee hung in the air, familiar and foreign at the same time. This was his restaurant, his grandmother's legacy, but walking through it in darkness like a thief made it feel like enemy territory. Tanya materialized from the shadows near the walk-in freezer. He left at 11:15, she whispered. We have maybe 2 hours before the overnight cleaning crew. Anyone else here? Just us. I sent everyone home early, said I'd handle the closing myself. Marcus nodded. Show me. Dang. They moved through the kitchen to the narrow hallway that led to Derek's office. The door was closed, but not locked. Derek's arrogance again. He didn't think anyone would dare. Marcus pushed it open. The office was small and functional. A desk, a chair, a filing cabinet, and in the corner, a floor safe, the size of a mini-fridge. On the wall, a framed photo of Derek shaking hands with Marcus at his promotion ceremony 3 years ago. Marcus's stomach turned. The desk first, Tanya said. Bottom drawer. Marcus knelt, used the copied key. The drawer slid open. 2 stacks of time cards, one labeled payroll, one labeled actual. He already had photos of copies, but seeing the originals made it real in a way that copies couldn't. Beneath the time cards, a black leather ledger. Derek's handwriting filled every page. Week of September 15th through 21st. Jasmine Carter, 68 hours, worked 40 hours paid. Profit $420. Leverage status stable. Custody hearing scheduled November 3rd. Maintain pressure. Maria Santos, 61 hours, worked 40 hours paid. Profit $315. Leverage status elevated. Mother's visa interview October 28th. Increased shift requirements to ensure compliance. Page after page. 14 employees. 18 months of systematic theft and psychological torture documented in neat handwriting like a business ledger. Marcus photographed everything. Every page, every entry, every damning word. The safe, Tanya said. That's where the real secrets are. Marcus moved to the corner. The safe was old but solid, a combination dial on the front. He remembered the anonymous text from this morning. December 12th, 1955. Derek's mother's birthday. He spun the dial. 12 right, 55 left. 12 right again. The safe clicked open. Inside, Marcus found hell. The first folder was labeled Phase 2. He opened it and felt his blood freeze. Documents. Legal documents. A draft purchase agreement for Second Dawn Café dated 2 weeks ago. The buyer, a restaurant group called Meridian Hospitality, based in Chicago. Purchase price $1.2 million. Seller's signature line, Derek Holloway, acting owner. He's trying to sell my restaurant, Marcus breathed. Keep reading, Tanya said quietly. Marcus flipped to the next page. A forged power of attorney document supposedly signed by Marcus Williams, granting Derek Holloway full authority to manage, sell, or transfer all business assets. The signature was fake. Good, but fake. When did he make this? I don't know, but there's more. Marcus reached deeper into the safe. His hand closed around another folder thicker than the first. He pulled it out. The label read Insurance Policy. Inside, he found the weapon Derek had been building for 3 years. A sexual harassment complaint against Marcus Williams. Detailed, documented, complete with dates and witness statements. The alleged victim, Jasmine Carter. Except Jasmine had never filed anything. Her signature was forged. The witness statements were fabricated. The entire document was a lie designed to destroy Marcus's reputation if he ever tried to challenge Derek. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the second complaint, and the third, and the fourth. 4 different employees, 4 forged complaints, 4 detailed accusations of harassment, discrimination, and hostile workplace behavior, all dated within the past 6 months, all ready to be filed the moment Derek needed them. He was going to destroy you, Tanya whispered. If you ever came back, if you ever found out what he was doing, he was going to bury you in lawsuits, make you toxic, make it so nobody would believe anything you said. Marcus's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the folder. There's one more thing, Tanya said. Bottom of the safe, the red folder. Marcus reached in. His fingers touched something cold. He pulled out a small metal box. Inside a USB drive and a red folder labeled Corporate Asset. He opened the folder, and everything he thought he knew about this nightmare got worse. Emails. Printed emails between Derek and someone at Marcus's corporate office. Someone named Rachel Torres, Human Resources Director. Rachel. Marcus had hired her 4 years ago, trusted her completely. The emails went back 18 months. The same 18 months Derek had been running his operation. The complaint about Jerome Washington has been deleted from the system. No record exists. That was Rachel. Good. Keep me informed if anyone else tries to contact corporate. I need to know immediately. That was Derek. The quarterly audit is scheduled for October. I'll make sure the numbers match your reports. Rachel again. Transfer the usual amount, same account. Derek. Marcus counted the emails. 47 exchanges over 18 months. Rachel Torres had been feeding Derek information, deleting complaints, falsifying audits. She was his inside person, his partner. How much? Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Tanya shook her head. I don't know the total, but I saw bank statements once when Derek left his desk unlocked. She's been getting $10,000 a month, maybe more. $10,000 a month for 18 months. That was $180,000 paid to Rachel Torres to help Derek enslave the staff and steal the restaurant. Marcus photographed everything. The purchase agreement, the forged power of attorney, the fake complaints, the emails with Rachel, every piece of evidence that proved this wasn't just one corrupt manager. It was a conspiracy. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. You found it. Good. Now you know what you're really fighting. Marcus typed back, Who are you? How do you know what I'm finding? The response came immediately. I work at Meridian Hospitality. Derek doesn't know I exist, but I know everything about his deal. He's meeting them Friday morning to sign the papers. After that, it's too late. Why are you helping me? Because Derek destroyed someone I loved, a woman named Patricia. She worked at Second Dawn 2 years ago. Derek drove her to a breakdown. She's in a psychiatric facility now. Hasn't spoken in 8 months. Marcus remembered Patricia. Quiet woman mid-40s had worked the morning shift. One day she just stopped coming in. Derek said she'd quit. Said she'd found a better opportunity. I'm sorry, Marcus typed. Don't be sorry. Stop him. Wednesday night at the celebration. That's your chance. Expose him before he can sign that deal. The number disconnected. Marcus stood in Derek's office surrounded by evidence of a conspiracy that went deeper than he'd ever imagined. His corporate office was compromised. His restaurant was being stolen. His employees had been tortured for 18 months while he collected applause on the other side of the world. Mr. Williams, Tanya's voice was gentle. What do we do now? Marcus looked at her. This woman who had waited 14 months, who had risked everything to bring him home, who had watched her colleagues suffer while she gathered evidence and prayed for rescue. We burn it down, he said. All of it. Wednesday night. Tanya nodded. I'll make sure everyone's there. And Tanya, don't tell anyone about Rachel. Not yet. If Derek finds out we know about his inside person, he'll warn her. They'll destroy the evidence. What about the police? After Wednesday, after I expose him publicly, I want him to see it coming. I want him to know exactly who destroyed him and why. They left the office exactly as they'd found it, locked the drawer, closed the safe, slipped out through the back door into the cold Detroit night. Marcus walked back to his motel with evidence of a conspiracy on his phone and fire in his veins. 2 days. The anniversary celebration was in 2 days, and Derek Holloway had no idea what was coming. Tuesday morning arrived gray and cold. Marcus was already awake when dawn broke, sitting on the edge of his motel bed, reviewing the evidence for the 100th time. $427,000 in stolen wages, 18 months of documented abuse, a forged power of attorney, a deal to sell the restaurant for $1.2 million, 4 fabricated harassment complaints, a corporate insider feeding Derek information, and 14 employees who had suffered in silence waiting for someone to save them. His phone buzzed at 7:15 a.m., text from Tanya. Derek's in a good mood today, talking about the anniversary celebration, says it's going to be his coronation. Marcus almost laughed. Coronation. Derek had no idea he was walking toward his execution. He typed back, keep me posted, I'm coming in later today. Need to see a few more things? Be careful, he's been watching everyone more closely. Something's got him nervous. Nervous. Good, let him be nervous. Marcus showered, dressed, and headed out at noon. He didn't go to the cafe, not yet. Instead, he drove across town to an address he'd memorized from Derek's files. Rachel Torres's apartment building. He parked across the street and waited. At 12:47 p.m., a woman emerged from the building. Late 30s professional clothing, walking toward a silver Lexus that cost more than most Second Dawn employees made in a year. Rachel Torres. Human Resources Director, Derek's partner in crime. Marcus watched her drive away. He wasn't going to confront her, not yet, but he needed to see her face, needed to remember what betrayal looked like. His phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She's leaving for lunch. Every Tuesday, same restaurant. She meets with her sister for 2 hours. Her apartment will be empty. Marcus typed, I'm not breaking into her apartment. You don't need to. Everything you need is in Derek's safe. But I thought you'd want to know something else. Rachel is getting nervous. She called Derek this morning, said she wants to meet before the Friday signing. Said something about loose ends. What loose ends? I don't know, but Derek told her not to worry. Said by Wednesday night, everything would be handled. Wednesday night, the anniversary celebration. What was Derek planning? Marcus sat in his car for a long time, thinking. Derek knew something. Maybe not everything, but something, the way predators always sensed when the trap was closing. He needed to be careful, needed to make sure Wednesday night went exactly as planned. His phone buzzed again. This time it was his daughter Zara. Dad, I know something's going on. You've been weird for days. Please just tell me. Marcus stared at the message. Zara was 23 years old, smart as hell, and she knew him better than anyone. He typed back, I'm in Detroit, at the restaurant. I found out some bad things about Derek. I'm handling it. Her response was immediate. What kind of bad things? The kind that end with people going to prison. Dad, do you need help? I can fly out tonight. No, stay in Chicago. I'll call you Wednesday night after it's done. After what's done, Dad, you're scaring me. Marcus paused. His daughter's worry reached through the phone and grabbed his heart. I'm okay, sweetheart, I promise, but I have to fix something I broke. Something I should have fixed a long time ago. Just be careful, please. I will. I love you. I love you too, Dad. He put the phone down and started the car. Time to go back to Second Dawn. Marcus arrived at the cafe at 2:30 p.m. Same worn jacket, same tiger's cap, same reading glasses. He took his usual booth in the corner and ordered coffee. The lunch rush was ending. The dinner prep was starting. Between them, a strange calm. Jasmine was working the floor. She looked slightly better today, marginally less exhausted. Her son Malik was in school, safe for a few more hours. That small mercy was probably all that kept her going. Jerome was in the kitchen, visible through the serving window. He moved with mechanical efficiency, a man who had learned to survive by becoming invisible. Maria chopped vegetables at the prep station. Her hands moved fast, almost too fast. The knife blade flashed in the fluorescent light. Derek emerged from his office at 3:15 p.m. He was smiling. That bright, professional, utterly false smile that Marcus had once mistaken for enthusiasm. Staff meeting in 5 minutes, Derek announced. Everyone to the front. The employees gathered. Their body language told the story. Hunched shoulders, downcast eyes, the posture of people waiting to be hit. Big news, Derek said, clapping his hands together. Tomorrow night is our 10-year anniversary celebration. We're expecting press, local politicians, maybe even some television coverage. This is huge for us people. Huge for Second Dawn. Nobody responded. Nobody smiled. Derek's expression flickered. Just for a second, something dark passed behind his eyes. Then the mask was back. I need everyone here tomorrow by 4 p.m., full uniform, best behavior. We're going to show this city what Second Dawn is all about. He paused, let his gaze sweep across the assembled staff. And I want to remind everyone that we're a family here. Families stick together. Families don't talk about private matters with outsiders. Understood. The threat was barely veiled. Don't talk to the press. Don't say anything about what happens here, or else. Yes, sir, Sanu, the staff murmured in ragged unison. Good. Back to work. They scattered. Marcus watched Jasmine return to her tables, watched Jerome disappear into the kitchen, watched Maria go back to her vegetables. Derek walked through the dining room, playing the gracious manager, chatting with customers, checking on satisfaction. He passed Marcus's booth without a glance, but then he stopped, turned back, looked at Marcus with sudden intensity. You've been here before, Derek said. I remember you from yesterday. Marcus kept his face neutral. Good memory. I liked the place. Thought I'd come back. We appreciate loyal customers. Derek's eyes narrowed slightly. You from around here? Visiting, business trip. What kind of business? Hamkish, restaurant consulting actually. I help struggling operations turn things around. The words came out before Marcus could stop them. A test, a provocation. He wanted to see how Derek would react. Derek's smile widened. Really? That's interesting. We should talk sometime. I've got some ideas about expanding this place. I'm sure you do. Something passed between them. A recognition of some kind, though Marcus couldn't tell what Derek was sensing. Enjoy your meal, Derek said finally, and welcome back to Second Dawn. He walked away. Marcus watched him go, feeling the predator's gaze linger even after Derek had disappeared into his office. That was close, too close. His phone buzzed under the table, text from Tanya. He's suspicious. Be careful. Marcus typed back, I know, it's okay. After tomorrow, it won't matter. At 6:30 p.m., something happened that changed everything. Marcus was still in his booth nursing his fourth cup of coffee when the door chimed and a woman walked in. Late 30s, professional clothing. Silver Lexus key fob in her hand. Rachel Torres. Marcus's heart stopped. She walked straight to Derek's office, knocked twice, and entered without waiting for a response. The door closed behind her. What was she doing here? The anonymous tipster had said she was meeting her sister for lunch, but here she was at Second Dawn meeting with Derek in person. Marcus pulled out his phone, pretended to scroll through emails while straining to hear anything from the office. Nothing. The walls were too thick. Tanya appeared at his booth with a fresh coffee pot. "That's her," Marcus whispered. "Rachel Torres, the one from corporate." Tanya's face went pale. "She never comes here. Why is she here now?" "I don't know, but it's not good." Tanya refilled his coffee with shaking hands. "Should I try to listen?" "No, too risky. Just act normal." Tanya nodded and walked away. 23 minutes. That's how long Rachel was in Derek's office. 23 minutes of Marcus sitting in his booth trying to look casual while his mind raced through every possible scenario. When Rachel finally emerged, she was smiling. She walked past Marcus's booth without looking at him, walked past Tanya at the register, walked out the front door to her expensive car, and drove away. 2 minutes later, Derek appeared. He was smiling too, but it was a different smile, a satisfied smile, the smile of a man who had just solved a problem. He walked to the center of the dining room and clapped his hands. "Everyone, listen up. Change of plans for tomorrow night." The staff stopped what they were doing. "The anniversary celebration is still happening, but I've added a special announcement, something that's going to change everything for Second Dawn." Derek's eyes glittered. "It's going to be a night nobody forgets." Marcus felt ice in his veins. Derek knew something, had figured something out. Rachel's visit wasn't coincidence, it was strategy. His phone buzzed, unknown number. She told him about the anonymous complaints, the ones that were supposedly deleted. She said someone's been asking questions at corporate. Derek knows he's being investigated. Marcus typed back, "How do you know this? Because I'm the one who planted those questions, I wanted to flush them out. I'm sorry, I didn't think she'd move this fast." What's he planning? "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's happening tomorrow night. You need to move faster than him." Marcus stared at his phone. The game had changed. Derek wasn't walking blindly into a trap anymore. He knew something was coming. He was preparing his own countermove. Tomorrow night wasn't just Marcus's chance to expose Derek. It was Derek's chance to destroy him first. The question was who would strike first. Marcus left the cafe at 8 p.m. He walked back to his motel through streets that felt darker than before, colder, more hostile. In his room, he spread his evidence across the bed. Photos of the ledgers, photos of the forged documents, photos of the emails between Derek and Rachel. It was enough. More than enough to destroy Derek in any court, in any newspaper, in any conversation. But Derek was planning something, some countermove, some trap. Marcus needed to think, needed to anticipate. What would Derek do if he suspected exposure was coming? The forged complaints. That was the obvious weapon. If Marcus showed up tomorrow and accused Derek of theft and abuse, Derek could immediately fire back with 4 harassment allegations. It would be Marcus's word against manufactured documentation. But that wasn't enough. Not if Marcus had the evidence to prove the complaints were forged. What else? What else could Derek do? The deal with Meridian Hospitality, the forged power of attorney. If Derek could prove that he had legal authority over Second Dawn, he could claim that any accusations were just a disgruntled former owner trying to interfere with a legitimate business transition. But Marcus had the original documents. He could prove the power of attorney was fake. What else? What was Marcus missing? His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Derek just made a phone call to a number I don't recognize. He talked for 16 minutes. He mentioned Wednesday night 5 times. And he said something about making sure the owner takes the fall. Takes the fall. What did that mean? Marcus typed fall for what? I don't know, but Derek sounded confident. Whatever he's planning, he thinks it's foolproof. Marcus stared at the ceiling of his motel room. Derek was going to frame him for something. Something that would happen tomorrow night at the anniversary celebration in front of press and politicians and cameras. But what the harassment complaints wouldn't be enough. Those were defensive weapons designed to counter accusations. Derek needed something offensive, something that would put Marcus on the back foot immediately. Think like Derek. Think like a predator. What would destroy Marcus completely? What would make him the villain instead of the hero? And then it hit him. The tip jar, the stolen wages, the falsified payroll records. Derek wasn't just keeping those records to steal money. He was keeping them as evidence. Evidence of systematic wage theft at Second Dawn Café. and whose name was on the business license, whose name was on the tax returns, whose name was legally responsible for every payroll decision, Marcus Williams. Derek wasn't just stealing, he was setting Marcus up to take the blame. If Derek revealed the wage theft tomorrow night in front of press and politicians, he could claim that he'd just discovered it, that he was the whistleblower, that Marcus Williams, the famous entrepreneur who talked about dignity and second chances, had been stealing from his own employees for years. The irony was perfect. The betrayal was complete. Marcus would look like a hypocrite, a fraud, a criminal, and Derek would look like the hero who exposed him. Marcus grabbed his phone and called Tanya. She answered on the second ring. "Mr. Williams, what's wrong?" "He's going to frame me tomorrow night. He's going to reveal the wage theft and claim I'm responsible." Silence on the other end. Then, oh God. "I need the employees to understand what's happening before tomorrow night. They need to know that Derek kept those records to protect himself, not to document my crimes." "But how do we prove that it's your name on the business, your name on everything? The ledger, Derek's handwriting, his notes about leverage and pressure points. That's not how an owner documents payroll. That's how a thief documents his crimes." "But will people believe that once he makes the accusation, once the press starts running the story?" "That's why I have to strike first, before he can get his version out. Tomorrow night, the second he starts his special announcement, I need to be ready." Tanya was quiet for a long moment. "What do you need me to do?" "Get everyone together, tonight. I don't care how late it is, I need to talk to them before tomorrow." "All of them. All of them. Jasmine, Jerome, Maria, everyone who's been hurt. They need to hear the truth from me. They need to know what's coming." "Okay, give me an hour. There's a church basement on Woodward. Pastor Davis lets us use it sometimes. I'll text you the address." "Thank you, Tanya." "Mr. Williams, whatever happens tomorrow, thank you for coming back. Thank you for believing us." She hung up. Marcus sat on the edge of his bed, his grandmother's recipe card clutched in his hand. Feed people with love, and love comes back. Tomorrow night he would find out if that was true. If love was stronger than lies. If truth could defeat a well-prepared liar. The text came at 11:30 p.m. An address on Woodward Avenue. Marcus drove through empty Detroit streets, past boarded-up buildings and struggling businesses, past the ghosts of a city that had once been the engine of American industry. The church was small brick, the kind of building that had seen better days but refused to give up. A light glowed in the basement windows. He parked and walked to the side entrance. Tanya was waiting. "They're all here," she said. 14 employees, everyone who's still working at Second Dawn." "How did you get them to come?" "I told them the truth. I told them the owner was back and he wanted to help." She paused. "They're scared, Mr. Williams. Scared of Derek, scared of hoping, scared of everything. I know. I'm going to try to change that." He walked down the stairs into the basement. 14 faces turned toward him. Jasmine Carter, Jerome Washington, Maria Santos. The servers, the cooks, the dishwashers. People he'd hired to give them second chances. People he'd abandoned. The room was silent. Marcus stood at the front, looking at each face in turn. "My name is Marcus Williams," he said. "I own Second Dawn Café, and I owe every single person in this room an apology." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. 14 months ago, I left Detroit. I told myself I was building something bigger, spreading the mission, helping more people. Marcus's voice cracked. I was lying to myself. I was running away, running from the hard work of actually being present, actually protecting the people I claimed to care about. Jasmine's eyes were wet. Jerome's jaw was clenched tight. While I was gone, Derek Holloway turned Second Dawn into a prison. He stole your wages. He used your secrets against you. He threatened your families, your freedom, your children. Marcus paused. And I didn't know, because I wasn't here. Because I trusted the wrong person. Because I failed you. Why are you here now? Jerome's voice was hard. Why should we believe anything you say? Because I have proof. Yet, Marcus pulled out his phone, showed them the photos. 18 months of records, every stolen hour, every threat, his handwriting, his notes, his own documentation of everything he did to you. He passed the phone around the room, watched their faces as they saw the evidence. Shock, anger, something that might have been hope. Tomorrow night is the anniversary celebration, Marcus continued. Derek is planning to make an announcement. I believe he's going to reveal the wage theft and blame me for it. He's going to claim he just discovered it. He's going to paint himself as the hero and me as the villain. Why would anyone believe him? Maria asked. Because my name is on the business. My name is on the tax returns. Legally, I'm responsible for everything that happens at Second Dawn. Marcus took a breath. But I have his ledger, his handwriting, his notes about using your immigration status and your parole and your custody battles as leverage. That's not how a concerned manager documents problems. That's how a criminal documents his crimes. So what do we do? Tanya asked. Tomorrow night, I'm going to expose him. In front of the press, the politicians, everyone. I'm going to show them the evidence and let them see what kind of man Derek Holloway really is. Marcus looked around the room. But I need your help. What kind of help? I need you to be there. I need you to be willing to tell your stories. Not to the press, I would never ask you to do that. But to the room, to the people who need to understand that this isn't just numbers on a page. These are real lives, real families, real suffering. The room was silent. Then Jasmine stood up. I'll do it. Everyone turned to look at her. I'll stand up there tomorrow night and tell everyone what he did to me, what he threatened, what he made me feel. Her voice was shaking, but her eyes were steel. My son watched him hit me. My son watched me cry. I'm done being afraid. Jerome stood up next. I'll do it too. I've got 5 years, 8 months left on my parole. Derek's been holding that over my head every single day. But you know what? I'd rather go back to prison than spend one more day letting that man control me. One by one, they stood. Maria, Tanya, the dishwasher who Derek had threatened with deportation, the server whose medical debt he'd used as leverage, the prep cook whose mother was undocumented. 14 people. 14 voices. 14 stories of survival and suffering. Marcus felt tears running down his face. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for trusting me. I swear to you, I will not let you down. Not this time. The meeting broke up at 1 a.m. Marcus shook every hand, hugged every person who needed a hug, promised every person who needed a promise. Tomorrow night, everything would change. He drove back to his motel through streets that felt different now. Still dark, still cold, but not hopeless. Not anymore. His phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. I heard what you did tonight. The meeting, the employees. Marcus typed, how? I have my ways, but you should know something. Derek heard too. Someone talked. He knows you're planning to expose him tomorrow. Marcus's blood went cold. Who talked? I don't know, but Derek just made 3 phone calls. To his lawyer, to Rachel Torres, and to someone at Meridian Hospitality. What did he say? Paco. He said change of plans. We're accelerating the timeline. The owner needs to be neutralized before he can speak. Neutralized. Marcus stared at the word until his vision blurred. Derek wasn't just going to try to frame him anymore. Derek was going to try to stop him completely. The question was how, and when. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in his motel room, watching the door, waiting for whatever was coming. Tomorrow was the anniversary celebration. Tomorrow was the confrontation. Tomorrow one of them would be destroyed. Marcus just had to make sure it wasn't him. Wednesday, 6:47 a.m. Marcus was still awake when the sun broke over Detroit. He hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Derek's face. That smile, that confidence, the way predators looked when they thought they'd already won. His phone had been silent since 2 a.m. No more texts from the anonymous source. No updates on Derek's plans. Just silence, thick and suffocating. Marcus showered with cold water to shock himself alert. Dressed in his best suit, the one his grandmother had bought him for his first speaking engagement 15 years ago. You look like somebody important, she'd said, straightening his tie. Now go be somebody important. Tonight he would find out if he still was. At 8:15 a.m. his phone buzzed. Tanya. Something's wrong. Derek called an emergency staff meeting for 9. He never does that on event days. Marcus typed back, what's the meeting about? Nobody knows. But he's been in his office since 6. Rachel Torres showed up at 7:30. Rachel was there. At the restaurant. 7 hours before the celebration. Whatever Derek was planning, it was happening now. I'm coming in, Marcus typed. Don't let anyone know I'm there. The back entrance. I'll leave it unlocked. Marcus grabbed his phone, his evidence, his grandmother's recipe card. He looked around the motel room one last time. If things went wrong tonight, he might not come back here. He walked out the door. Second Dawn Café was buzzing with activity when Marcus slipped through the back entrance at 8:52 a.m. Decorations were going up. Anniversary banners, balloons, a makeshift stage near the front windows. The kitchen staff was already prepping for the evening rush. Marcus moved through the storage area, staying low, staying quiet. He found a spot behind the walk-in freezer where he could see the main dining room through a gap in the shelving. At 9:00 a.m. exactly, Derek emerged from his office. Rachel Torres walked beside him. They were both smiling. Everyone gather around, Derek called out. Quick meeting before we start the day. The staff assembled. 14 people. Marcus recognized every face from last night's meeting at the church. They looked different in the daylight, more afraid, more resigned. The hope he'd seen last night was buried now hidden under layers of survival instinct. I have some exciting news, Derek said. As you know, tonight is our 10-year anniversary celebration, but what you don't know is that we have a very special guest attending. He paused, caught the letting the suspense build. Marcus Williams himself will be joining us tonight. The staff went rigid. Marcus saw Jasmine's face go pale, saw Jerome's hand curl into fists, saw Tanya's eyes widen with something that looked like terror. They thought they'd been betrayed. They thought Marcus had told Derek about last night's meeting. Mr. Williams has been traveling extensively, Derek continued, but he wanted to be here for this milestone. He called me yesterday to confirm his attendance. That was a lie. Marcus hadn't called anyone. Now I want everyone on their best behavior tonight. Mr. Williams will be watching, and I've been keeping detailed records of everyone's performance. Derek's smile widened. Detailed records. The threat was clear. Talk to Marcus and I'll destroy you. Also, Derek added, I want to introduce you to Rachel Torres. She's from our corporate office. She'll be observing tonight's event and preparing a special report. Rachel stepped forward, all professional warmth and practiced sincerity. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Second Dawn has such an amazing reputation, and I can't wait to see it in action tonight. Nobody believed her. Marcus could see it in their faces. They knew something was wrong. They just didn't know what. Any questions? Derek asked. Silence. Good. Let's make tonight unforgettable. The staff dispersed. Derek and Rachel returned to the office. Marcus stayed hidden behind the walk-in freezer, his mind racing. Derek knew he was coming, knew or had guessed or was setting a trap, and Rachel's presence changed everything. She wasn't just Derek's inside person anymore, she was a witness, a corporate representative who could legitimize whatever Derek was planning. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He's planning to announce your resignation tonight. Says you called him yesterday and admitted to the wage theft. Says you're stepping down and transferring ownership to him. Marcus's blood ran cold. That's insane. No one will believe that. Rachel will confirm it. She's already prepared a statement from HR supporting the transition. Derek's lawyer drafted the documents this morning. But I never signed anything. I never called him. It's all fabricated. That's the point. He's going to control the narrative. By the time you can prove it's false, the story will already be out there. You'll spend months fighting in court while he runs your restaurant. Marcus stared at his phone. Derek wasn't just trying to frame him. He was trying to erase him. Take his restaurant, his reputation, his life's work all in one perfectly orchestrated evening. What do I do in this? Marcus typed. Strike first. Before he can make his announcement, the moment you see an opening, take it. And if there's no opening, make one. The number disconnected. Marcus leaned against the cold metal of the freezer, breathing hard. Strike first. Make an opening. He had the evidence. He had the employees. He had the truth. But Derek had Rachel to press the stage and a head start. This wasn't going to be a confrontation. This was going to be a war. At 11:30 a.m., Marcus slipped out the back door and returned to his motel. He needed to prepare, needed to think, needed to anticipate every move Derek might make. His phone buzzed. Tanya. Derek's been on the phone all morning. I overheard him talking about documentation and witness statements. Something about making sure everything is legally airtight. What kind of documentation? I don't know, but Rachel's been in his office with a briefcase full of papers. They're building something, Mr. Williams. Something big. Marcus paced his motel room. Documentation, witness statements, legally airtight. Derek was creating a paper trail. A fake paper trail that would support his version of events. By tonight, he'd have forged documents, fabricated witnesses, manufactured evidence, all pointing to Marcus as the villain. And Marcus had 14 employees who were willing to tell the truth. The question was, who would people believe, the well-prepared liar with corporate backing and professional documentation, or the absent owner with a handful of frightened workers? His phone buzzed again. This time it was his daughter Zara. Dad, I'm at the airport. I'm coming to Detroit. Zara, no. I told you to stay in Chicago. And I told you I don't care. Something's wrong. I can hear it in your voice. I can feel it. A pause. You're my father. I'm not letting you face this alone. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Sweetheart, this could get ugly tonight. Really ugly. Then you'll need someone in your corner. I land at 4:15. I'll be at Second Dawn by 5. Zara. I love you, Dad. See you tonight. She hung up. Marcus stared at his phone. His daughter flying into a war zone because she loved him. Because she refused to let him fight alone. He didn't deserve her. But tonight he was going to try to. At 2:00 p.m. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check the news, Channel 7, now. Marcus turned on the motel TV, flipped to Channel 7. A breaking news banner scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Local restaurant owner accused of wage theft. Employees speak out. Marcus's stomach dropped. A reporter stood outside Second Dawn Café, microphone in hand. We're here at Second Dawn Café, the Detroit restaurant famous for its second chance hiring program. But tonight we've learned that the owner, Marcus Williams, may have been hiding a dark secret. The camera cut to an interview. A woman Marcus didn't recognize wearing a Second Dawn uniform. He's been stealing from us for years, the woman said, tears streaming down her face. Making us work 60, 70 hours a week and only paying us for 40. We were too scared to say anything. Marcus's hands were shaking. The woman wasn't a real employee. He'd never seen her before in his life. Derek had hired an actress, paid someone to go on television and lie. The reporter continued, we reached out to Mr. Williams for comment, but he has not responded. However, a spokesperson for Second Dawn's corporate office released this statement. Rachel Torres appeared on screen standing in front of the restaurant. We are deeply troubled by these allegations, Rachel said, her voice grave and professional. An internal investigation has been launched. Mr. Williams has been placed on administrative leave pending the results. We want to assure our employees and the community that Second Dawn is committed to treating everyone with dignity and respect. Administrative leave. They'd already started erasing him. Marcus grabbed his phone, called Tanya. She answered on the first ring. Did you see it? I'm watching it right now. Mr. Williams, that woman isn't one of us. I've never seen her before. I know, she's an actress. Derek hired her. But the news, they believed her. Everyone's going to believe her. That's the point. Marcus forced his voice to stay calm. Derek's controlling the narrative, making his version the official story before I can tell mine. What do we do, Ag? We stick to the plan. Tonight at the celebration, I expose him in front of everyone. But the press already thinks you're guilty. They'll just think you're desperate trying to deflect. Not if I have proof. Not if I have 14 employees who can tell the real story. Silence on the other end. Tanya, are you still there? I'm scared, Mr. Williams, really scared. Derek saw the news. He's been walking around smiling all day. He knows he's winning. He's not winning. He's cheating. And cheaters always lose in the end. Do they? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like the cheaters have all the power. Marcus closed his eyes. Tonight that changes, I promise you. He hung up. The news segment ended. The anchor moved on to the weather. Marcus sat on the edge of his motel bed, watching his reputation be destroyed in real time. Derek had struck first. Struck hard. Struck with the ruthless efficiency of someone who had been planning this for months. But Derek had made one mistake. He thought Marcus would be caught off guard. Thought he'd spend the afternoon scrambling, panicking, trying to do damage control. Instead, Marcus was going to walk into that celebration tonight with his head held high and his evidence ready, because the only way to beat a well-prepared liar was to tell a truth so powerful it couldn't be ignored. At 4:47 p.m., Marcus pulled into the parking lot of Second Dawn Café. The celebration was scheduled to start at 6. Guests would begin arriving at 5:30. Press, politicians, community leaders, all coming to celebrate 10 years of second chances. None of them knew what they were really about to witness. Marcus sat in his car watching the front entrance. Catering trucks unloaded food. Decorators added final touches. A news van was already parked on the street, cameras ready. His phone buzzed. Zara, I'm in a cab from the airport, 20 minutes away. Where do I meet you? Main entrance. But Zara, listen to me. Whatever happens tonight, whatever you see, I need you to trust me. I trust you, Dad. I've always trusted you. Even when the news says I'm a criminal. Especially then, because I know who you really are. I know what you built this place for. And I know you would never hurt the people you promised to protect. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. A knot he hadn't known was there. I love you, sweetheart. I love you too. See you soon. He hung up and stepped out of the car. Time to face the monster he'd created. Marcus walked through the front door of Second Dawn Café at 5:03 p.m. The bell chimed. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Derek was standing near the makeshift stage talking to a man in an expensive suit. He saw Marcus, and his face went through a series of expressions: surprise, anger, calculation, and finally settled on a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Williams?" Derek crossed the room with his arms spread wide. "We weren't expecting you so early. I thought you'd want to make a grand entrance." "I wanted to see the preparations." Marcus kept his voice neutral, his expression calm. "This is my restaurant after all." Something flickered in Derek's eyes, a warning. "Of course it is, and what a beautiful job the team has done." Derek gestured around the room. 10 years of excellence. We should be proud. We should be honest. Derek's smile faltered for just a second. "I'm sorry." Honest about what this place represents, what it was built for. Marcus looked around the room, making eye contact with the employees, Jasmine near the kitchen door, Jerome visible through the serving window, Maria frozen mid-motion near the prep station. "My grandmother used to say that when you feed people, you feed their souls. Tonight I want to honor that." What a beautiful sentiment. Derek's voice was smooth, but his eyes were calculating. "I'm sure your grandmother would be very proud." "She would be proud of the people who work here, the people who've sacrificed everything to keep this place running." Marcus paused. "Even when it cost them more than anyone should have to pay." The room was silent. The employees weren't breathing. Derek laughed light and dismissive. "Marcus, you've been traveling too much. You sound exhausted. Why don't you go to the office and rest before the guests arrive? I'll handle everything out here." "I'm sure you would. You've been handling everything for 18 months. Marcus's voice hardened. "I've seen the records, Derek." Something shifted in Derek's face. The mask slipped just for a moment. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do. The time cards, the ledger, the leverage files." Marcus stepped closer. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Derek's jaw tightened. He glanced around the room at the employees watching, at Rachel Torres standing near the office door, at the news crew setting up outside. "This isn't the time or place for this conversation," Derek said quietly. "Whatever misunderstandings you think you've uncovered, we can discuss them privately." Misunderstandings. Marcus felt the rage building in his chest, the rage he'd been suppressing for days. "Is that what you call stealing $400,000 from people who can't afford to lose a dime? Is that what you call threatening to deport Maria's mother, to send Jerome back to prison, to take Jasmine's children?" The employees were staring now, eyes wide, breath held. "You're delusional." Derek's voice was louder now, playing to the room. "I've been protecting this restaurant while you were off giving speeches. Everything I've done has been to keep Second Dawn running." "Running?" "You've been running it into the ground. You've been running it like a prison." "That's enough." Rachel Torres stepped forward, all corporate authority, and manufactured outrage. "Mr. Williams, you're clearly under a lot of stress. The allegations against you are serious, and making wild accusations isn't going to help your case." "My case?" Marcus turned to face her. "You mean the case you helped fabricate, the forged documents, the fake employee testimony on the news?" Rachel's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I have the emails, Rachel. 47 of them. 18 months of you feeding Derek information, deleting complaints, falsifying audits." Marcus pulled out his phone. "Want me to read some of them out loud?" Rachel's eyes darted to Derek. Something passed between them. Fear, accusation, desperation. "This is insane." Derek's voice was rising, losing its control. "You can't just walk in here and start making accusations." "I can when I have proof." Marcus held up his phone. "Every time card, every ledger entry, every forged document. Your handwriting, Derek. Your words. Your records of exactly how you tortured 14 people for 18 months. The front door opened. Zara walked in. She took one look at the scene, her father facing off against Derek and Rachel, and positioned herself at Marcus's side. "I'm Zara Williams," she said, her voice clear and strong. "And whatever my father is about to tell you, I want you to know that I've seen the evidence. It's real, it's documented, and it's damning." Derek stared at her, then back at Marcus. His mask was crumbling. "You don't understand," Derek said, his voice changing, taking on a desperate edge. "You don't understand what I've built here. While you were gone, while you were collecting applause, I was the one keeping this place alive. I was the one making the hard decisions." "Hard decisions," Jasmine's voice cut through the room. She stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "You call hitting me a hard decision. You call threatening to take my children a hard decision." "Shut up." Derek's voice was a whip crack. "You don't get to talk." "Yes, she does." Marcus stepped between them. "She gets to talk. They all get to talk. That's what tonight is about." "No." Derek shook his head. No, tonight is about my announcement, my moment. You don't get to steal this from me. Steal what? What exactly were you planning to announce, Derek? Derek's face twisted. That you're stepping down. That you finally admitted what you've done and you're transferring ownership to someone who actually cares about this place. And you have documents to prove that documents I never signed. You called me yesterday. You admitted everything. I didn't call you. I haven't spoken to you in 4 months. You're lying. I'm standing right here, Derek, in front of witnesses, in front of cameras. Marcus gestured toward the window where the news crew was watching with undisguised fascination. Tell me again that I called you yesterday. Tell everyone here that I admitted to crimes I didn't commit. Derek's breathing was rapid now. His hands were shaking. Rachel grabbed his arm. Derek, stop. This is over. We need to... Don't touch me. He shoved her away. This was your plan. You said it was foolproof. You said he'd never find out. Derek, please. You told me we'd be safe. You told me the records were deleted. The room had gone completely silent. Every eye was fixed on Derek as he unraveled. Marcus stepped forward. The records aren't deleted, Derek. I have copies of everything. The time cards, the leverage files, the emails between you and Rachel, the forged power of attorney, the deal with Meridian Hospitality. He paused. Did you really think you could steal my restaurant and I wouldn't notice? Derek's face went white. That's right. I know about the sale. $1.2 million. You were going to sign the papers Friday right after you destroyed my reputation tonight. Marcus shook his head. It was a good plan, I'll give you that. It might have even worked. Might have? Derek's voice was barely a whisper. If you hadn't made one mistake. What mistake? Marcus looked around the room at the employees who had suffered in silence, at the woman who had risked everything to bring him home, at the daughter who had flown across the country to stand by his side. You forgot that people have souls, Marcus said quietly. You forgot that when you treat people like machines, they don't forget. They don't forgive. They wait. And when the time comes, they fight back. Tanya stepped forward. I sent the texts, anonymous because I was scared, but I never stopped hoping you'd come home. Jerome stepped forward. I've been documenting everything for 6 months. Every hour I worked, every threat he made. I've got notebooks full of evidence. Maria stepped forward. He threatened to deport my mother, every single day, but I wrote it all down, dates, times, exact words. One by one, the employees stepped forward. 14 voices, 14 stories, 14 witnesses to 18 months of terror. Derek stood in the center of them, trapped, exposed, alone. You can't do this, he whispered. I gave everything to this place. I worked harder than anyone. You deserve prison. Marcus's voice was ice. And that's exactly where you're going. The front door opened. 2 Detroit police officers walked in. Mr. Derek Holloway. The first officer stepped forward. We have a warrant for your arrest, wage theft, fraud, identity theft, and falsification of legal documents. Derek's face crumbled. How did you... I called them this morning, Marcus said. Right after I sent copies of all the evidence to the district attorney's office. While you were busy rehearsing your fake announcement, the real authorities were reviewing 18 months of documented crimes. The officers moved toward Derek. He backed away, looking around wildly for an escape. This isn't over, he said. You can't prove anything. It's my word against faults. Against 14 witnesses, 2 sets of time cards, a handwritten ledger, 47 emails, and your own documented records of exactly how you terrorized every person in this room. Marcus shook his head. It's over, Derek. It was over the moment you forgot that people matter more than profit. The officers reached Derek. One of them pulled out handcuffs, and then everything went wrong. Derek lunged toward the counter. His hand disappeared beneath the register and came up holding a gun. Nobody move. The room froze. Derek backed toward the kitchen door, the gun sweeping across the room. You think you've won? His voice was hysterical now. You think this is over? I built this place while you were gone. I made it profitable. I kept it running. And now you want to throw me away like garbage. Derek put the gun down. Marcus held his hands up, keeping his voice calm. This doesn't end well for anyone if you... Shut up. Derek pointed the gun at Marcus's chest. You abandoned this place. You abandoned all of them. And I'm the villain. I'm the monster. Yes, Jasmine's voice was steady, even with a gun in the room. You are. You hit me in front of my son. You threatened to take my children. You made me afraid to come to work every single day. She stepped toward him. You are absolutely the monster. Stay back. Derek swung the gun toward her. Jasmine, don't... Marcus moved to intercept. and then a scream split the air. From behind the counter, a voice erupted, "He's got a gun! He's got a gun!" It was Malik. Jasmine's 8-year-old son had been hiding in the booth where his birthday cake had melted 2 days ago. He must have snuck in when no one was watching, wanting to see his mother at the big celebration. And now he was staring at Derek, at the gun, at the monster who had made his mama cry. "Malik!" Jasmine's voice broke. "Baby, get down!" Derek turned toward the boy. For one terrible moment, the gun swung in Malik's direction, and Marcus moved. He didn't think, didn't plan, didn't calculate, he just moved. His body collided with Derek's. They went down hard, crashing into tables, sending chairs flying. The gun discharged once, twice, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Marcus felt fire in his shoulder, ignored it. His hand found Derek's wrist, twisted hard. The gun clattered to the floor. Jerome was there in an instant, kicking the weapon away, his prison-hardened instincts taking over. The police officers rushed forward, pinning Derek to the ground. Marcus rolled onto his back, gasping. His shoulder was screaming with pain. Blood was soaking through his suit. "Dad?" Zara dropped to her knees beside him. "Dad, you're shot." "I'm okay." Marcus forced the words out. "I'm okay. Is everyone? Everyone's fine. You saved Malik. You saved everyone." Jasmine appeared above him, tears streaming down her face. Malik clutched in her arms. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you. Thank you." Marcus looked past her at the ceiling at the lights at his grandmother's restaurant. He'd kept his promise. Finally, after 18 months of failure, he'd kept his promise. The paramedics arrived at 6:23 p.m. They loaded Marcus onto a stretcher while the police finished arresting Derek. Rachel Torres was in handcuffs, too sobbing about lawyers and immunity deals. The news crew had captured everything. Every word, every moment, every frame of Derek's breakdown and Marcus's sacrifice. As they wheeled Marcus toward the ambulance, Tanya walked beside the stretcher. "Mr. Williams?" "Yes." "The celebration. The guests are starting to arrive. What do we do?" Marcus looked at her. At this woman who had waited 14 months, who had risked everything, who had never stopped believing. "Feed them," he said. "Use my grandmother's recipe. The real one." He reached into his pocket with his good hand, pulled out the worn recipe card. "Feed people with love, Tanya, and love comes back." Tanya took the card with trembling hands. "I will," she whispered. "I promise." The ambulance doors closed. And somewhere in a Detroit hospital, as doctors removed a bullet from his shoulder, Marcus Williams finally allowed himself to smile. He'd come home. He'd faced the monster. He'd protected the people he loved. And tomorrow they would rebuild. Together. Weaving a complex narrative of recovery, justice, and redemption, the story will explore the emotional and practical challenges of rebuilding after betrayal. With Marcus's journey at the center of the healing process, I'll track the hospital drama legal battles and the restaurant's transformation, creating a compelling arc of resilience and hope. The narrative will balance intense personal moments with broader systemic changes, showing how individual actions can reshape an entire community's trajectory. The key will be maintaining high emotional stakes while progressing the plot with strategic revelations and character development. Each scene will need to push the story forward, revealing new layers of complexity in the characters' relationships and motivations. I'll craft moments of tension, unexpected connections, and gradual restoration, ensuring that every development feels both surprising and inevitable. The goal is to create a sense of organic transformation that feels true to the characters' experiences. The anonymous helper's revelation will be a critical turning point, adding another layer of intrigue and potential redemption to the unfolding narrative. Part 4. Thursday, 7:17 a.m. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness, the morphine dulling everything to a soft blur. His shoulder throbbed beneath the bandages. The bullet had missed his artery by 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters between life and death. Zara sat in the chair beside his bed, holding his hand. She hadn't left since the ambulance brought him in. "Dad?" Her voice was soft. "Can you hear me?" Marcus opened his eyes. The ceiling was white. Everything was white. "I hear you, sweetheart." "The doctor says you're going to be fine. The surgery went well. You just need to rest." "The restaurant? What happened at the restaurant?" Zara smiled through her tears. Tanya took over. She made the French toast, the real recipe, served it to everyone who showed up for the celebration. The press. They stayed, filmed everything. The police arresting Derek, Rachel being taken away, the employees telling their stories. Zara squeezed his hand. "It's all over the news, Dad. Every channel. You're a hero." Marcus closed his eyes. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a man who finally showed up." "That's what heroes do. They show up when it matters." His phone buzzed on the bedside table. Zara picked it up. "It's Tanya. She wants to know if you're okay. Tell her I'm fine. Tell her to take care of the staff. Tell her..." Marcus paused, gathering strength. "Tell her tomorrow we start making things right." Zara typed the message. A response came back immediately. "She says the staff wants to visit. All of them. They're waiting in the lobby." "All 14? "All 14, plus some customers who heard what happened." Zara looked at her father. "They've been here since midnight. They won't leave until they know you're okay." Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, something warm and painful and healing all at once. "Let them in?" he whispered, "one at a time." Thursday, 10:34 a.m. Jasmine was first. She walked into the room with Malik asleep in her arms, the boy's head resting on her shoulder. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. "Mr. Williams." "Jasmine." She stood at the foot of his bed, clutching her son like he might disappear if she let go. "You saved him," she said. "You saved my baby." "I saved myself. I saved the person I should have been 18 months ago." Jasmine shook her head. "You don't understand. When Derek pointed that gun at Malik, I thought I was going to watch my son die. I thought everything I'd suffered, everything I'd endured, it was all for nothing. It wasn't for nothing. You survived. You stayed strong. You protected your children even when no one was protecting you." Tears spilled down Jasmine's face. "I was so angry at you for so long. I thought you knew. I thought you didn't care. I thought you were just another rich man who talked about dignity but didn't mean it. I should have known. I should have been here. But you came back. When it mattered, you came back." Jasmine moved closer, adjusted Malik's weight on her shoulder. "That's more than most people do. That's more than anyone's ever done for me." Marcus reached out his good hand. Jasmine took it. "I'm going to make this right," he said. "Every dollar Derek stole, every hour you worked without pay. I'm going to make it right." "I know you will," Jasmine smiled. "Malik keeps asking about you, keeps calling you the superhero who stopped the bad man." "I'm no superhero. You are to him. You are to all of us." She squeezed his hand once, then turned and walked out. Marcus watched her go, his chest tight with emotions he couldn't name. Thursday, 7:51 a.m. Jerome came next. He stood in the doorway for a long moment, his massive frame filling the space. His eyes were wet. "You took a bullet," Jerome said, "for a kid you barely know." "I took a bullet for family. That's what Second Dawn is supposed to be." Jerome walked to the bed, sat down heavily in the chair Zara had vacated. "I was in prison for 8 years, he said quietly. 8 years of people telling me I was worthless, that I'd never amount to anything, that I was a danger to society. I remember your interview. You told me prison taught you how to cook. It taught me more than that. It taught me that most people give up on you the first chance they get. One mistake and you're done. Nobody cares about redemption. Nobody believes in second chances." Jerome's voice cracked. "But you did. You gave me a job when nobody else would even look at me. You earned that job. Your talent earned it. And then Derek..." Jerome's hands curled into fists. "Every day he reminded me what I was, where I came from, what he could do to me with one phone call." He looked at Marcus with eyes that had seen too much. "I started to believe him, started to think maybe I really was just a criminal who got lucky, maybe I didn't deserve anything better. That's a lie. Derek was the criminal, not you. I know that now, but for 18 months I forgot. I forgot who I was, who I could be." Jerome wiped his eyes. "Tonight when I kicked that gun away, when I helped take him down, I remembered. I remembered that I'm not just my past. I'm not just my worst mistake. You never were." Jerome stood up, extended his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Williams, for believing in me, for coming back, for everything." Marcus shook his hand. "Thank you for staying, for surviving, for being there when it mattered." Jerome nodded once, then walked out. Thursday, 3:08 a.m. Maria came in crying. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, tears streaming down her face, hands clutched together. "Maria, it's okay. You're safe now." "My mother," Maria choked out. "Derek can't hurt her anymore. No, he can't hurt anyone anymore. I was so scared. Every day I was so scared. He would pull up that ICE website on his phone and just show it to me. Wouldn't say anything. Just show it. And I knew what he meant. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't here to stop him." "You're here now?" Maria wiped her face with trembling hands. My mother, she watched the news tonight. She saw what happened. She's been praying for you all night. She said you're a good man, a man of honor. I don't feel honorable. I feel like I failed you. You didn't fail. You were deceived. There's a difference. Maria stepped closer. My mother came to this country 30 years ago with nothing. She worked her whole life so I could have a better future. And Derek, he used that against me. He used her sacrifice, her vulnerability as a weapon. That's over now. I know, and I want you to know something. Maria's voice steadied. Whatever you need, whatever you're planning for the restaurant, I'm with you. My mother is with you. Our whole family is with you. Thank you, Maria. That means more than you know. She smiled through her tears, then turned and left. Thursday, 3:24 a.m. One by one they came. The dishwasher whose green card Derek had threatened to revoke. The server whose medical debt he'd used as leverage. The prep cook whose brother was undocumented. The busboy whose mother was in prison. 14 stories of survival. 14 acts of courage. 14 people who had endured the unimaginable and kept going. By 4 a.m., Marcus had heard them all, and by 4 a.m., he knew exactly what he had to do. Thursday, 4:17 a.m. Tanya was last. She walked in carrying a folder, her face determined. You should be sleeping, Marcus said. So should you, but we both know that's not happening. She sat down, opened the folder. I've been up all night, going through the records, making calculations. What kind of calculations? The money, Mr. Williams, every dollar Derek stole. I've got exact figures for every employee going back 18 months. She handed him a piece of paper. Marcus looked at the numbers. Jasmine Carter, $38, $640. Jerome Washington, $31, $200. Maria Santos, $27,360. Tanya Brooks, $24 and $480. The list went on. 14 names, 14 amounts. Total at the bottom, $427,680. $427,000, Marcus said quietly. That's just the wage theft. It doesn't include the tips he skimmed, the vendor kickbacks, the information he sold to payday lenders. Tanya's jaw tightened. We may never know the full amount. But we know this, and we can make this right. How the restaurant's accounts. The business checking it's all tied up in legal proceedings now. Derek had his name on everything. I have personal savings, investment accounts my grandmother left me. Marcus looked at the paper again. It's enough. It's more than enough. You'd use your own money. It was my failure that allowed this to happen, my absence, my trust in the wrong person. Marcus met her eyes. This is the least I can do. Tanya stared at him for a long moment. Then she started crying. I'm sorry, she said, wiping her face. I've just never... No one has ever... Ever what? Ever actually followed through. People say they'll help. They say they care. But when it comes time to actually do something, they disappear. She laughed through her tears. I stopped believing in people a long time ago. Derek made sure of that. I know, and I'm going to spend however long it takes rebuilding that trust. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is. Tanya nodded. She closed the folder, stood up. The staff is waiting. They want to know what happens next. Tell them to go home, get some rest. Tomorrow afternoon, we're having a real meeting, all of us, and I'm going to lay out exactly how we're going to rebuild Second Dawn. What about you? The doctor said you need to stay at least 3 days. I'll be there, even if I have to roll in on a hospital bed. Tanya smiled. I believe you would. She walked to the door, paused. Mr. Williams. Yes. Thank you for everything, for coming home, for believing us, for taking that bullet. Her voice broke. You gave us hope. That's something Derek could never take away. She left. Marcus lay back against the pillows, staring at the ceiling. $427,000. 14 lives. 18 months of terror. And somehow they had survived. Tomorrow the real work would begin. Thursday, 10:42 a.m. Marcus woke to find a stranger sitting in the chair beside his bed. A woman, late 40s, professional clothing, familiar somehow, though he couldn't place her. Who are you? The woman smiled. You don't recognize me. That's fair. We've never met in person. Then how did you get in here? I told the nurses I was family. They didn't ask questions. She leaned forward. My name is Patricia Monroe. I used to work at Second Dawn 2 years ago. Patricia. The name hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. You're the one who sent the texts. The anonymous tipster? Yes. The person who told me about Derek's plans, who gave me the safe combination? Yes. Tanya told me about you. She said Derek drove you to a breakdown, that you've been in a psychiatric facility for months. Patricia's face tightened. That's true. I was hospitalized for 8 months. Severe depression, anxiety, PTSD, all courtesy of Derek Holloway. I'm sorry, I didn't know. No one knew, that was the point. Derek erased me, made sure no one remembered what happened, made sure no one would believe me if I ever spoke up. Patricia's voice hardened. But I never stopped watching, never stopped gathering information. Even from inside the hospital, I had people feeding me updates. Why go through all that? Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Because I loved that restaurant. I believed in what you built. Second chances, dignity, a place where people like me could start over. Her eyes filled with tears. And Derek destroyed it, turned it into a nightmare, used it to hurt the people it was supposed to help. So you waited, gathered evidence, reached out to me when the time was right. I had to be careful. Derek has eyes everywhere. If he'd found out I was helping you, he would have destroyed whatever credibility I had left. Patricia wiped her eyes. But when I heard about the anniversary celebration, I knew it was time. I knew you'd come back for that. Marcus stared at her. This woman who had suffered so much, lost so much, and still found the strength to fight back. Thank you. Without your information, I wouldn't have known about the safe. Wouldn't have found the evidence I needed. You would have found it eventually. You're not the kind of person who gives up. Patricia smiled sadly. That's why I reached out to you instead of the police. I knew you'd do it right. You'd expose him publicly, completely, in a way that would make sure he could never hurt anyone again. And now, what happens to you now? Patricia took a deep breath. I'm going back to treatment. I'm not ready to be out in the world yet. But knowing that Derek is in jail, knowing that those employees are finally safe... She shook her head. It's the first peace I've felt in 2 years. When you're ready, there's a job waiting for you at Second Dawn. If you want it. Patricia's face crumpled. You don't have to do that. I want to. You're part of this family. You always were. Patricia stood up, leaned over, kissed Marcus on the forehead. Get well, Mr. Williams. Those people need you. They need all of us. Patricia nodded once, then walked out. Marcus watched her go, feeling the weight of everything that had happened, everyone who had suffered, everyone who had survived. This was bigger than him. Bigger than one restaurant, one business, one dream. This was about redemption. For all of them. Thursday, 7:00 p.m. Zara burst into the hospital room, her face flushed with excitement. Dad, you need to see this. She turned on the TV, switched to Channel 7. A news anchor was speaking grave and professional. Breaking developments in the Second Dawn Café scandal. Federal prosecutors have announced additional charges against Derek Holloway, including wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit labor trafficking. If convicted, Holloway faces up to 47 years in federal prison. Marcus sat up straighter, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. Additionally, Rachel Torres, the human resources director implicated in the scheme, has agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. Sources say Torres has provided detailed information about the conspiracy, including evidence of a planned hostile takeover of the restaurant. She's cooperating, Zara breathed. She's turning on him. The news anchor continued. In a statement released this morning, the Meridian Hospitality Group, which was allegedly involved in negotiations to purchase Second Dawn, has denied any knowledge of fraudulent activities. However, federal investigators have issued subpoenas for company records. Marcus exhaled slowly. It's spreading. The whole conspiracy is unraveling. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment he thought it might be Patricia again, but the message was different. Mr. Williams, my name is David Chen. I'm an FBI special agent assigned to the Holloway case. I need to meet with you as soon as possible. There are aspects of this investigation that require your immediate attention. Marcus typed back, what kind of aspects? The response came quickly. We've discovered that Derek Holloway's activities extended beyond Second Dawn. He was part of a larger network, other restaurants, other victims, other accomplices. A larger network. Marcus stared at the message, his blood running cold. Derek wasn't working alone. He was part of something bigger, and the nightmare wasn't over yet. Thursday, 4:30 p.m., Agent David Chen arrived at the hospital with 2 other FBI agents and a stack of files thick enough to be a dictionary. Mr. Williams, thank you for seeing us. I don't have much choice. I'm stuck in this bed. Chen smiled briefly. I'll get straight to the point. Derek Holloway has been running wage theft schemes for over 12 years. Before Second Dawn, he worked at 6 other restaurants. Same pattern. Infiltrate, build trust, take control, steal everything that isn't nailed down. 6 other restaurants. That we know of. The total amount stolen across all operations is estimated at over $3 million. Chen opened one of the files. But here's what concerns us. Holloway didn't operate alone. He was connected to a network of individuals who specialize in this kind of infiltration. They target businesses that hire vulnerable populations, ex-convicts, immigrants, single parents, people who won't fight back. Marcus felt sick. How many people were involved? We've identified at least 12 accomplices so far. Rachel Torres was one, but there are others. Some in corporate offices, some in law enforcement, some in government agencies that oversee labor compliance. Law enforcement government agencies. This network has been operating for over a decade, Mr. Williams. They've had time to build connections everywhere. Chen's face was grim. We're going to need your help to take them down. My help? How? You have credibility, you have a platform, and you have 14 employees who are willing to testify about what happened at Second Dawn. Chen leaned forward. We want to use your case as the centerpiece of a larger prosecution, a RICO case that will bring down the entire network. Marcus looked at Zara. She nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Everything. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence you've gathered. And we need you to go public. Not just about Derek, but about the larger pattern, the systematic targeting of vulnerable workers. That could put my employees in danger. If this network is as big as you say, we'll provide protection. Federal marshals if necessary. But without your cooperation, this network will continue operating. They'll just find new targets, new victims. Marcus closed his eyes. $3 million, 12 years, multiple restaurants, countless lives destroyed, and he was being asked to put himself and his people in the crosshairs to stop it. I need to talk to my employees, he said finally. This isn't my decision alone. Of course, take all the time you need. Chen stood up. But Mr. Williams' time is a factor here. The longer we wait, the more chances they have to cover their tracks. The agents left. Zara sat down beside her father's bed. What are you going to do? Marcus stared at the ceiling. The right thing? He said quietly. Whatever that turns out to be. Thursday, 7th p.m. Marcus checked himself out of the hospital against medical advice. The doctors protested. Zara protested. Even the nurses protested. He didn't care. There was work to be done. They drove to Second Dawn Café. The parking lot was full. Cars, news vans, people milling around outside. What's going on? Marcus asked. I don't know. Tanya didn't say anything about this. They walked to the front entrance. The door was propped open. Inside the restaurant was packed, not with customers, with people, former employees, community members, local business owners, people Marcus had helped over the years, people who had heard about what happened, people who had come to show their support. Tanya saw him first. Mr. Williams, what are you doing here? You should be in the hospital. I'm fine. What is all this? Tanya smiled. Word got out. About what you did. About what Derek did. People started showing up this afternoon. They wanted to help. Help with what? With everything. Cleaning up, cooking, serving. A local baker brought 100 loaves of bread. A farmer from outside the city donated vegetables. A restaurant supply company offered us new equipment at cost. Marcus looked around the room, at the faces, the energy, the hope. They just showed up. They just showed up. That's what communities do, Mr. Williams. They show up for each other. Tanya took his arm. Come on, there's someone you need to see. She led him through the crowd to a booth in the back. Jasmine was there, and Jerome, and Maria, and all the others. 14 employees gathered together waiting. Mr. Williams? Jasmine stood up. We heard you left the hospital. We were worried. I'm okay, a little sore, but okay. We've been talking, Jerome said, all of us, about what Agent Chen told you. How do you know about that? Zara called Tanya. Tanya called us. Jerome's jaw was set. We know about the network, the other restaurants, the other victims. And we want to help. Maria stood up. Whatever you need. Testimony, evidence, whatever. We're in. Marcus stared at them. You understand what that means. These people are dangerous. If we go after them. They're already dangerous, Jasmine interrupted. They've been dangerous our whole lives. At least now we have a chance to fight back. But your families, your children, I can't ask you to risk. You're not asking. Tanya stepped forward. We're telling. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about every person who's ever been exploited, every worker who's ever been afraid to speak up, every family that's been torn apart by people like Derek. We spent 18 months being victims, Jerome added. We're done with that. We want to be warriors. Marcus looked at each face in turn, saw the fear, yes, but also the determination, the courage, the fire. Okay, he said quietly. We do this together. A cheer went up from the group. Someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping, the sound filling the restaurant, spilling out into the street. Marcus felt tears on his face. He didn't try to hide them. This was why he'd built Second Dawn. This was the dream he'd almost lost. And now, together, they were going to make it real. Friday, 9:00 a.m. Marcus stood at the front of Second Dawn Café addressing his employees for the first time since the confrontation. His shoulder ached. His body screamed for rest, but his spirit had never been stronger. I'm not going to stand here and make speeches, he began. You've heard enough speeches from me over the years. Words without action, promises without follow-through. The room was silent, attentive. Instead, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, not what might happen, not what I hope will happen, what is going to happen. He pulled out an envelope. First, the money. Every dollar Derek stole from you is being returned, today, with 15% interest. He opened the envelope, pulled out a stack of checks. Jasmine, you're first. Jasmine walked forward. Marcus handed her a check. $44,436, he said. Every hour you worked, every tip you earned, everything that was taken from you. Jasmine stared at the check. Her hands were shaking. This is more money than I've ever seen in my life. It's yours. You earned it. She looked up at him, the tears streaming down her face. I can pay off my car. I can catch up on rent. I can... She couldn't finish. She just clutched the check and sobbed. One by one, Marcus called their names. One by one, he handed out checks. Jerome, $35, $880. Maria, $31, $464. Tanya, $28, $152. The others followed. 14 checks. Total $491, $832. More than the original theft. Marcus had added his own money to make it right. That's the first thing, he said when the last check was handed out. Now the second thing. He pulled out another stack of documents. Second Dawn Café is being restructured. Effective immediately, this restaurant is becoming a worker-owned cooperative. Every employee who's been here more than 1 year becomes a part owner. Gasps around the room. What does that mean? Jerome asked. It means you own a piece of this business. It means you have voting rights on major decisions. It means 40% of all profits get split among employee owners every quarter. You're giving us the restaurant? Tanya's voice was incredulous. I'm sharing it. I keep 51% for operational control. You share 49% by tenure and hours. Marcus looked around the room. Derek used this place to exploit you. I want it to belong to you instead. Silence. Then Maria started crying. Then Jerome. Then everyone. Marcus let them feel it. Let the moment settle. Third thing. We're creating an employee council. 5 elected members. Veto power over major decisions. Hiring, firing, policy changes. I can't fire anyone without council approval. The council can override me with a majority vote. You're giving us power to vote against you, Jasmine asked. I'm giving you power to protect yourselves. What Derek did, the exploitation, the threats, it happened because nobody could stop him. Because I wasn't here and nobody else had the authority. Marcus's voice hardened. That's never happening again. He pulled out one more document. Finally, we're implementing something I'm calling the Dignity Shield. Using anyone's immigration status, criminal record, medical history, or family situation as leverage against them results in immediate termination. 0 tolerance. 0 exceptions. What about you? Jerome asked. What if you do something wrong? Who holds you accountable? You do, the council does, and I'm committing to 30 hours minimum on-site every week. No more traveling, no more speeches. I'm here, in the kitchen, on the floor, where I should have been all along. Marcus set down the documents. Questions? Tanya raised her hand. What about the FBI investigation agent Chen's network? We're cooperating, all of us who are willing. The FBI has promised protection for anyone who testifies. Marcus paused. I won't force anyone. This is dangerous, and I understand if some of you aren't comfortable, but I'm going to do it. and I hope you'll stand with me." "We already told you we're in," Jerome said. "That hasn't changed." "I know, but I wanted to give you one more chance to change your minds now that you've had time to think." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. "Then we're doing this. Together." Jasmine stood up. "Mr. Williams." "Yes." "Can I say something?" "Of course." Jasmine walked to the front of the room, stood beside Marcus. 3 days ago, I was ready to give up. My son had watched me get hit. My children were going to be taken away. I had no money, no hope, nothing. She looked at the check in her hand. Now I have this, and a voice, and people who believe in me. She turned to face the other employees. "I don't know what's going to happen with the FBI or the network or any of that, but I know this. For the first time in 18 months, I'm not afraid to come to work. For the first time in 18 months, I feel like I matter." Her voice broke. "And that's worth fighting for. That's worth any risk." Applause erupted. Not polite applause. Real applause. The sound of people who had been silenced finally finding their voices. Marcus watched them cheer, watched them embrace each other, watched them cry. This was the real celebration, not the anniversary party that had gone so wrong. This was what Second Dawn was supposed to be. Friday, Suktudurapim. The employee council elections were held that afternoon. It was supposed to wait until next week, but the staff voted unanimously to do it immediately. They were done waiting. Done being passive. Tanya won with 14 votes. Unanimous. Jasmine came second. Also unanimous. Jerome third. Maria fourth. A server named Keisha Washington fifth. 5 voices, 5 votes. 5 people who had survived Derek Holloway and emerged stronger. Marcus called the first council meeting for 3 p.m. "First order of business," Tanya said, settling into her role as council chair. "We need to hire a new operations manager, someone to handle the business side while Mr. Williams focuses on being present." "I have some candidates in mind," Marcus said, "but I want the council to interview them. Your approval is required." "We'll review the applications tomorrow," Jasmine said, "but I have a question first." "Go ahead." "The recipe, your grandmother's French toast recipe. Derek changed it to save money. What happens now?" Marcus reached into his pocket, pulled out the worn recipe card. "This goes back on the menu, tomorrow. The real recipe, real ingredients. I don't care what it costs." "What if it hurts our margins?" Jerome asked. "Then it hurts our margins. Some things are more important than profit." Marcus looked at the card at his grandmother's handwriting. "My grandmother used to say that when you feed people, you feed their souls. Derek forgot that. I forgot that. We're not forgetting again." Tanya smiled. "Motion to restore the original recipe effective immediately." "Second," Jasmine said. "All in favor." 5 hands went up. "Motion carries." Tanya made a note in her book. Next order of business. The meeting continued for 2 hours. They discussed scheduling compensation training, customer service, community outreach. Every decision was debated, voted on, recorded. Democracy. Real democracy. For people who had spent 18 months living under tyranny. Marcus sat back and watched them work. This was what leadership looked like. Not one person at the top making all the decisions. A community of people working together, sharing power, sharing responsibility. His grandmother would have been proud. Friday, 6:00 p.m. The dinner rush arrived, and for the first time in 18 months, Second Dawn Café felt like home. Marcus worked the grill alongside Jerome. The old recipe was back. Thick-cut challah bread, real butter, cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla extract. The smell filled the kitchen like a blessing. "It's different," Jerome said, flipping a piece of toast. "What is everything? The energy, the way people move. It's like the whole place was holding its breath, and now it's finally exhaling." Marcus nodded. "Fear does that. It tightens everything, makes people small. And now we breathe, now we grow." Jasmine appeared at the kitchen window. "Order up. Table 7 wants the French toast special. They said they heard it's famous." "Coming right up." Marcus plated the toast himself. Powdered sugar, fresh strawberries, real maple syrup. He handed it to Jasmine. "Personal delivery from the owner." She smiled. "You know, I think I'm going to like this new arrangement." "Me too." Marcus watched her carry the plate to table 7. Watched the customer's face light up at the first bite. Watched the chain reaction of smiles spreading across the dining room. This was it. This was why he'd built this place. Why his grandmother had passed down her recipes. Why his mother had invested her life savings. Not for profit, not for fame. For this. For moments like this. His phone buzzed. Agent Chen. Mr. Williams, we've made progress. 3 arrests this afternoon. The network is starting to crack. That's good news. It is, but I need to warn you. Some of the people we've arrested are talking. They're claiming that Derek Holloway was just a small part of the operation. The leaders are still out there. Marcus's blood went cold. What does that mean? It means be careful. These people don't like exposure. They might try to retaliate. Against me. Against anyone involved in bringing them down. You, your employees, your family. Marcus looked around the restaurant. At the people he'd promised to protect. At the family he'd almost lost. I understand. I'll be in touch. Stay safe, Mr. Williams. The call ended. Marcus stood in the kitchen doorway, watching the dinner rush, thinking about what Chen had said. The network was still out there. The leaders were still free, and they might be coming for everyone he loved. But he wasn't running. Not this time. He'd spent 18 months being absent. 18 months letting other people fight his battles. That was over now. Whatever came next, he would face it. Together with his family. Together with his people. Together. 6 months later. Saturday, 7:15 a.m. Marcus Williams stood at the grill of Second Dawn Café flipping French toast the way his grandmother had taught him. Thick-cut challah, wrinkle butter, cinnamon, and nutmeg swirling in the air like a prayer. The morning rush was building. Tables filled with regulars, new customers, families who had heard the story and wanted to see the place for themselves. Jasmine worked the floor with a confidence she hadn't possessed 6 months ago. Her son Malik sat in the corner booth doing homework, a glass of orange juice beside him. He came every Saturday now, called Marcus Uncle Marcus. Jerome ran the kitchen with quiet authority, training 2 new line cooks who had come through the Second Chance program. Both ex-convicts. Both grateful. Both learning that their past didn't define their future. Maria prepped vegetables at the station nearest the window, humming a song her mother used to sing. Her mother was here too, working the dishwashing station 3 days a week. The green card had come through 2 months ago. They were a family again. Tanya moved through the restaurant like she owned the place. Because she did. 4% ownership stake plus her position as council chair. She'd bought a car last month. First car she'd ever owned outright. This was what Second Dawn had become. Not just a restaurant. A revolution. Marcus's phone buzzed. Agent Chen? Mr. Williams? We got them. Marcus stepped away from the grill, handed the spatula to Jerome. Got who? The leaders, the top of the network. Federal agents arrested 7 people this morning in coordinated raids across 4 states. Chen's voice was tight with controlled excitement. It's over. The whole operation is dismantled. Marcus leaned against the wall, his legs suddenly weak. All of them. All of them. The mastermind was a man named Victor Reyes, former restaurant industry consultant. He's been running this scheme for 23 years. Hundreds of victims. Millions of dollars stolen. And Derek? Holloway's cooperation was crucial. He gave us everything. Names, bank accounts, operational methods. In exchange, the prosecutor recommended a reduced sentence. How reduced? 12 years instead of 47. He'll be eligible for parole in 8. Marcus closed his eyes. 12 years. For everything Derek had done. It felt like justice and injustice at the same time. What about Rachel Torres? We're at 4 years. She's already been transferred to federal custody. Chen paused. There's something else. The victims, from all the other restaurants Derek infiltrated, they're organizing, they want to meet you. Meet me why? Because you stopped him. You're the one who finally exposed the whole thing. They see you as a symbol. Marcus thought about that. A symbol. He didn't feel like a symbol. He felt like a man who had failed for 18 months and spent the last 6 trying to make up for it. Set up the meeting, he said finally. I'll talk to them. I'll send you the details, and Mr. Williams, yes. Thank you for everything you did, for having the courage to come forward. A lot of people's lives are better because of you. Chen hung up. Marcus stood in the hallway for a long moment processing. It was over. The network that had terrorized hundreds of workers across dozens of restaurants for more than 2 decades. Finished. Destroyed. And it had started here, with one man coming home. He walked back to the kitchen. Everything okay? Jerome asked. Better than okay. They got them. The whole network. It's done. Jerome's hands stopped moving. Done like finished done. Finished done. Jerome set down his spatula. For a moment, Marcus thought he was going to cry, but instead, Jerome started laughing. You hear that? He called out to the kitchen. It's over. They got all of them. The news spread through the restaurant like wildfire. Servers stopped mid-step. Customers looked up from their meals. Tanya emerged from the office, her face questioning. What's happening? The FBI arrested the network leaders, Marcus said. This morning, 7 people. The whole operation is dismantled. Tanya's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God. It's over, Tanya. It's really over. She started crying. Then she was hugging him, her tears soaking into his chef's jacket. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. We did it together. The restaurant erupted, employees embracing each other, customers applauding without knowing exactly what had happened, but sensing something momentous. Malik ran from his booth and wrapped his arms around his mother's waist. Mama, why is everyone crying? Jasmine knelt down, touched her son's face. Because sometimes, baby, the good guys win. 2 hours later, the celebration had settled into something quieter. Marcus sat in the corner booth with Jasmine, Jerome, Maria, and Tanya. The council, the inner circle, the people who had survived Derek Holloway and emerged stronger. So what happens now? Jasmine asked. Now we keep building. The cooperative is working. Profits are up 32% since we restructured. Employee retention is 97%. What about the speaking engagements? Tanya asked. You've had requests from all over the country, universities, business conferences, labor organizations. Marcus had thought about this. For months he'd turned down every invitation, stayed local, stayed present, kept his promise. I want to do some of them, Saw, he said carefully, but differently, not alone. What do you mean? I mean, I want you to come with me, all of you. Tell your stories. Show people what happened here and how we rebuilt. Jerome shook his head. I'm not a speaker, I'm a cook. You're a survivor. That's more powerful than any speech I could give. Marcus looked at each of them. People need to see that this isn't just about one restaurant. It's about a movement. Worker ownership, dignity shields, employee councils. These ideas can spread, but only if real people tell real stories. I'll do it, Jasmine said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. 3 years ago, I couldn't look anyone in the eye. Derek made me feel like I was nothing, like I deserved what was happening to me. Her voice was steady. If telling my story can help one person feel less alone, it's worth it. I'll do it too, Maria said. For my mother, for everyone who's afraid to speak up because of their immigration status. Jerome was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Fine, but I'm not wearing a suit. Tanya laughed through her tears. I think we can manage that. Marcus felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride, hope, love. Then it settled. We do this together, the way we've done everything else. 1 week later, the first speaking engagement arrived. University of Michigan, Business School Auditorium, 500 seats all filled. Marcus stood backstage watching the crowd through a gap in the curtain. Students, professors, business leaders, journalists, all waiting to hear about Second Dawn. You nervous? Jasmine asked. Terrified. Good, me too. They shared a look. 2 people who had been strangers 6 months ago now bound by something deeper than friendship. The moderator took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marcus Williams and the leadership team of Second Dawn Café. The applause was thunderous. Marcus walked out, followed by Jasmine, Jerome, Maria, and Tanya. 5 people, 5 stories, 1 message. He stepped to the microphone. Thank you for having us. I'm not going to stand here and tell you about business models or profit margins. I'm going to tell you about failure. The room went quiet. 18 months ago, I was a successful entrepreneur. Magazine covers, keynote speeches, standing ovations. Everyone thought I had it figured out. Marcus paused. I thought I had it figured out? But while I was collecting applause, the people I'd promised to protect were being systematically destroyed by someone I trusted. He told the story. Not the sanitized version, the real one. Derek's manipulation, the leverage files, the stolen wages, the terror that had lasted 18 months because he wasn't paying attention. I failed them, Marcus said, his voice cracking. I failed every single person in that restaurant because I was more interested in being celebrated than being present. He looked at Jasmine. But I'm not the hero of this story. They are. Jasmine took the microphone. My name is Jasmine Carter. 3 years ago, I started working at Second Dawn because I needed a job that would let me take care of my 2 children. I believed in the mission. Second chances, dignity, hope. She told her story. The threats, the abuse, the moment Derek hit her in front of her son. The 18 months of silence. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. Afraid of losing my job, my children, everything. Derek knew exactly how to keep me trapped. Her voice hardened. But fear has an expiration date, and when Mr. Williams came back, When he showed us that someone was willing to fight for us, I found my voice again. Jerome went next, then Maria, then Tanya. 4 stories of suffering and survival, 4 testimonies of courage. When they finished, the auditorium was silent. Then someone stood up and started clapping. Then another person, then another. Within seconds, 500 people were on their feet. Marcus looked at his team, at the tears on their faces, at the strength in their eyes. This was why they'd come. Not for applause, for connection. For the chance to show other people that they weren't alone. After the speech, a young woman approached Marcus. "Mr. Williams, my name is Sarah. I work at a restaurant downtown. I think something similar is happening there." Marcus's heart clenched. "Tell me." Sarah told him. The off-book hours, the threats. The manager who knew everyone's weaknesses and used them as leverage. It was Derek Holloway all over again. Different name, different place, same predator. "What should I do?" Sarah asked. Marcus looked at Tanya. "We're going to help you," Tanya said. "That's what we do now." They exchanged information, promised to follow up, promised that Sarah wouldn't have to fight alone. After she left, Jerome shook his head. "It never ends, does it? There's always another one." "That's why we keep fighting," Marcus said. "That's why we tell our stories, because every person we reach is one less person suffering in silence." 3 months later, Second Dawn Café celebrated its first anniversary under the new structure. The restaurant was packed. Employees, customers, community members, journalists, everyone who had been part of the transformation. Marcus stood at the front looking out at the crowd. 1 year ago, I walked into this restaurant as a stranger. I wore a disguise, sat in a corner booth, watched the woman I'd hired to manage things slap an employee in front of her child. The room was silent. I could have done something that day. I could have stood up, revealed who I was, stopped it immediately, but I didn't. I waited, gathered evidence, built a case. Marcus paused. I tell myself that was strategy, but sometimes I wonder if it was cowardice. He looked at Jasmine. That woman he hit, she's now the assistant general manager of this restaurant. She owns 4% of the business. Last month she put a down payment on a house. Jasmine smiled through her tears. The line cook whose parole he threatened, he's the executive chef now. He's enrolled in culinary school. His daughter is proud of him. Jerome wiped his eyes. The prep cook whose mother's deportation he used as leverage, her mother is a U.S. citizen now. They work side by side 3 days a week. Maria put her arm around her mother. 1 year, Marcus said. 1 year of rebuilding, of learning, of failing and trying again. He looked around the room. Employee retention 97%, revenue up 43%, profit sharing $22,000 distributed to employee owners last quarter. Applause rippled through the crowd. But those are just numbers. What matters is this, Marcus's voice cracked. For the first time in 2 years, the people who work here aren't afraid. They're not just employees. They're owners. They're leaders. They're the reason this place exists. He raised his glass. To Second Dawn, to second chances, and to the people who make both possible. To Second Dawn. The room echoed. Later that night, after the guests had left and the cleaning was done, Marcus sat alone in the corner booth. The same booth where he'd sat 9 months ago watching Derek terrorize his employees. The same booth where Malik had celebrated his birthday with melted candles and a ruined cake. The same booth where he'd made a decision that changed everything. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment his heart stopped. Old fear rising unbidden. He answered. "Mr. Williams, this is Patricia Monroe." Marcus exhaled. "Patricia, how are you? How are you?" "Better, much better." Her voice was stronger than he remembered. "I'm out of treatment. Have been for 2 months. I'm working again. Small restaurant in Ann Arbor. Nothing fancy." "That's wonderful. I wanted to call and thank you for everything, for using the information I gave you, for stopping Derek, for..." She paused. "For proving that the good guys can win sometimes." "You were the good guy, Patricia. You're the one who gathered the information, the one who reached out when it mattered." "I was scared. I waited too long." "But you acted. That's what counts." Silence on the line. "Mr. Williams, I want to come back." "Come back." "To Second Dawn. I know I left under terrible circumstances. I know I'm not the same person I was, but I've been watching what you've built. The cooperative, the council, the way you've transformed that place." Patricia's voice broke. "I want to be part of it again, if you'll have me." Marcus thought about the woman who had suffered so much, who had lost so much, who had still found the courage, get to help him when it mattered most. "The council makes hiring decisions now," he said, "but I'll recommend you personally and Patricia as..." "Yes." "Welcome home." She was crying when she hung up. Marcus sat in the booth looking at his phone, thinking about circles, about endings and beginnings, about the strange ways that pain could transform into purpose. Derek Holloway had destroyed Patricia Monroe, but he hadn't defeated her. She'd gotten back up, found her way back. That was the real lesson of Second Dawn. Not that bad things didn't happen. They did. They always would. But that people could survive them, could heal from them, could become stronger because of them. That was the second chance the restaurant was named for. Not a chance to pretend the past hadn't happened. A chance to build something better from its ashes. 6 months after that, a reporter from the New York Times called. "Mr. Williams, we'd like to do a feature story on Second Dawn. The worker cooperative model. The Dignity Shield policy. The way you've restructured the business." "I'd be happy to talk, but I have a condition." "What's that?" "You don't just talk to me. You talk to the employees, to the council members, to the people who actually make this place work." That's exactly what we were hoping for. The reporter spent 3 days at Second Dawn, interviewed everyone, watched the operation, attended a council meeting, ate more French toast than any human should consume in a week. When the article came out, it went viral. "The Restaurant Revolution: How One Detroit Cafe is Reimagining Worker Dignity." Within a week, Marcus had received inquiries from 147 businesses. Restaurants, retail stores, manufacturing companies. All asking the same question: how do we do what you did? Tanya organized the response. Created information packets. Set up consultation calls. Built a network of businesses interested in cooperative models. Within 3 months, Second Dawn had spawned 12 imitators. 12 businesses that had restructured around worker ownership, profit sharing, and dignity shields. Within a year, that number reached 53. It wasn't a movement anymore. It was an epidemic. A beautiful spreading infection of hope. 2 years after the confrontation, Marcus stood in front of the United States Congress. The Committee on Education and Labor had called him to testify about workplace exploitation and potential legislative reforms. "Mr. Williams, thank you for being here today. Can you tell us about your experience at Second Dawn Café?" Marcus leaned into the microphone. "Senators, I'm going to tell you a story about a woman named Jasmine." He told them everything. Derek's abuse, the leverage files, the systematic terror that had lasted 18 months, the confrontation that had nearly cost him his life. Then he told them about the rebuild, the cooperative, the council, the dignity shield. In 2 years, Second Dawn has inspired 53 other businesses to adopt similar models. Employee retention at those businesses averages 92%. Productivity is up an average of 34%. Profits are up an average of 27%. He looked at the senators. This isn't charity. This isn't socialism. This is good business. When you treat workers like partners instead of expenses, they build something worth building. When you give people dignity, they give you everything they have. "What would you recommend we do?" a senator asked. 3 things. First, strengthen wage theft enforcement. Make it a felony to systematically steal from workers. Second, provide tax incentives for businesses that adopt worker ownership models. Third, create federal standards for workplace dignity, minimum requirements that protect vulnerable workers from exploitation. Some would argue that's government overreach. And some would argue that letting predators like Derek Holloway operate freely is societal neglect. Marcus's voice hardened. "I testified to stop something that destroyed hundreds of lives over 23 years. If the government had acted earlier, those people would have been protected. They weren't. We can change that." The hearing lasted 3 hours. When it was over, 2 senators approached Marcus privately. "We're introducing legislation based on your testimony," one of them said. "The Workplace Dignity Act. It won't be easy to pass, but it's a start." Marcus shook their hands. "That's all I'm asking for, a start." The Workplace Dignity Act passed 18 months later. Watered down from its original form, but still meaningful. Stronger wage theft penalties, tax incentives for cooperatives, new protections for vulnerable workers. Marcus watched the vote from his living room surrounded by his team. "We did that," Tanya breathed. "We actually changed the law." "The law is just the beginning," Marcus said. "Laws don't change culture. People do." "Then we keep changing people," Jasmine said. "One restaurant at a time, one story at a time." Marcus looked at her, at the woman who had been afraid to make eye contact 3 years ago, at the leader she'd become. One story at a time, he agreed. 5 years after the confrontation, Marcus Williams woke up on a Saturday morning and drove to Second Dawn Café. He didn't have to go. The restaurant ran without him now. The council made the decisions. The managers handled the operations. He was technically retired, but he still came. Every Saturday morning. To work the grill, to make French toast, to be present. He pulled into the parking lot at 6:45 a.m. Jasmine's car was already there. She was assistant general manager now, but she still worked the Saturday morning shift. Said it kept her grounded. Jerome's car, too. Executive chef for 5 years. Running 2 culinary degrees. A cookbook in progress. And a car he didn't recognize. New employee, probably. They hired new people every few months. Second chancers, mostly. People who needed what Second Dawn offered. Marcus walked through the back door. The kitchen was already humming. Jerome at the grill. 2 line cooks prepping stations. Maria, she was operations manager, now checking inventory. "Morning, boss," Jerome called out. "Morning. Who's the new car outside?" "New hire. Started yesterday. Tanya's training her now." Marcus walked to the front of the restaurant. Tanya stood near the register with a young woman, early 20s, nervous hands, eyes that had seen too much. "Mr. Williams, this is Deandra. Deandra, this is Marcus Williams. He owns the place." "Co-owns," Marcus corrected. "The employees own 49%. Deandra's eyes widened. "I heard about that. I didn't know if it was true." "It's true. And if you stay a year, you'll be part of it too." Deandra looked like she might cry. "I just got out of prison 3 weeks ago. I didn't think anyone would hire me." "We hire people like you specifically. Second Dawn is about second chances." Marcus smiled. "What were you in for?" "Check fraud. I was young and stupid and desperate." Deandra looked at her feet. "I've been trying to get my life together ever since." "Well, you're in the right place. Ask Tanya. Ask Jerome. Ask anyone here. We've all been through something. That's what makes us family." Deandra nodded, blinking back tears. "Thank you, Mr. Williams. I won't let you down." "I know you won't." Marcus headed to the kitchen, grabbed an apron, tied it around his waist. "What are we making today?" Jerome grinned. "What else French toast? The real recipe." "The real recipe," Marcus repeated. "My grandmother's." He cracked eggs into a bowl, added vanilla, cinnamon, nutmeg, mixed it the way his grandmother had taught him 40 years ago. The restaurant filled up as the morning went on. Regulars in their usual booths. New customers drawn by the reputation. Families, couples, groups of friends. At 9:15 a.m., the door opened and a boy ran in. Uncle Marcus. Malik Carter, 11 years old now, sprinted across the restaurant and threw his arms around Marcus's waist. "Hey, buddy, shouldn't you be doing homework?" "Mom said I could come see you first." Malik looked up with bright eyes. "She said today's special." "Special how?" "I don't know. She just said to come find you." Marcus looked up. Jasmine was walking toward him carrying something in her hands. A frame. Inside the frame, a newspaper clipping. "What's this?" Jasmine handed it to him. Marcus read the headline, "Second Dawn Café named one of America's best workplaces. Worker-owned restaurant pioneer celebrates 5 years of industry-leading employee satisfaction." Below the headline, a photo. Marcus standing with his team. Jasmine, Jerome, Maria, Tanya. All of them smiling. "It came out this morning," Jasmine said. "I wanted you to be the first to see it." Marcus stared at the article. At the words that described what they'd built. At the faces of the people who'd built it with him. "We did this, he said quietly. "We did this together," Jasmine corrected. "That's what you always taught us. Nothing great is built alone." Marcus looked around the restaurant. At Jerome flipping French toast with expert precision. At Maria coordinating the morning rush with quiet efficiency. At Tanya training Deandra with patience and care. At Malik sitting in the corner booth doing homework just like he had 5 years ago. Different now. Everything was different now. Derek Holloway was serving year 5 of his 12-year sentence. Rachel Torres had been released early for good behavior, had written a letter of apology that Marcus kept in his desk drawer. Patricia Monroe was back at Second Dawn working the evening shift, rebuilding her life one day at a time. The network that had terrorized hundreds of workers was destroyed. Its leaders were in prison. Its victims were being compensated through a federal fund that Marcus had helped establish. And Second Dawn Café, the restaurant his grandmother had inspired, his mother had funded, and Marcus had nearly destroyed. The Frauenauer battle through neglect was thriving. Not just surviving, thriving. "Mr. Williams," Marcus turned. Deandra stood behind him, looking uncertain. Yes. I just wanted to say, I looked you up last night. Read about what happened here. The manager who stole from everyone, the confrontation, the shooting. She swallowed hard. You took a bullet for a kid you barely knew. I took a bullet for family. That's what I mean. You could have just fired the guy, gone to the police quietly, protected yourself. Deandra's voice cracked. But you stood up in front of everyone. You risked everything. Why? Marcus thought about the question, thought about all the answers he could give. Because it was right. Because his grandmother would have wanted it. Because the people who worked for him deserved better. All true. None complete. Because I finally understood something, he said. You can't build dignity on a foundation of silence. You can't create change by hiding from conflict. Sometimes the only way forward is through. He looked at Deandra. You spent time in prison. You know what it's like to be judged for your worst moment. To have people look at you and see only your mistakes. Deandra nodded. That's what Derek did to everyone here. Reduced them to their vulnerabilities. Made them feel like they deserved to be exploited because of their pasts. Marcus shook his head. But your past isn't who you are. Your past is just the road you took to get here. What matters is what you do next. Deandra was crying now. I want to be someone different, she whispered. I want to be someone my family can be proud of. Then be that person, starting today, starting right now. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. That's what Second Dawn is for. That's what second chances mean. She nodded, wiped her eyes, went back to work. Marcus stood in the middle of his restaurant watching his people. 5 years ago, he'd walked through these doors in disguise, expecting to find a well-run business. Instead, he'd found a nightmare. But from that nightmare, they'd built something extraordinary. Something that proved people could change, systems could change, the world could change. One restaurant at a time. One story at a time. One person at a time. His phone buzzed. Text from Zara. Dad, I'm bringing the grandkids for breakfast. Save us the corner booth. Marcus smiled. Grandkids. He had grandkids now, 2 of them, 3 and 5 years old. They called him Papa Marcus and demanded French toast every time they visited. Always, he typed back. The corner booth is always yours. He looked at that booth, the one where everything had started, the one where he'd watched Derek destroy Jasmine, the one where he'd made the decision that changed his life. It was just a booth now. Vinyl seats, laminate table, nothing special, but it was also a monument, a reminder of what they'd been through and what they'd become. Tanya appeared beside him. Big day, huh? Every day is a big day, that's what I've learned. Getting philosophical in your old age. Getting grateful. Marcus looked at her. Do you remember what you said to me that night in the storage room when you gave me the key to Derek's office? Tanya's face softened. I said I'd been waiting 14 months for you to come home. And I said I'd make it right. You did. We did. Marcus shook his head. I couldn't have done any of this without you, without Jasmine, without Jerome and Maria and everyone else. You're the ones who survived. You're the ones who had the courage to speak up. We survived because you gave us hope. You came back when we'd stopped believing anyone would. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Tanya smiled. Come on, old man, there's French toast to make, and your grandkids are going to be here in an hour. Who are you calling old? The guy who took a bullet 5 years ago and still complains about his shoulder every time it rains. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. A sound that had been rare in the dark days, but was common now. He walked back to his kitchen, grabbed his spatula, took his place at the grill beside Jerome. Ready for the rush? Always. Marcus cracked eggs, whisked batter, dipped bread into the mixture, lay it on the hot griddle, listened to the sizzle. The smell of cinnamon and vanilla filled the air. His grandmother's recipe, his mother's investment, his team's sacrifice, his grandchildren's future, all of it cooking together on a Saturday morning in Detroit. This was Second Dawn, not just a restaurant, a testament, a proof that broken things could be mended, that lost causes could be found, that people written off by the world could write their own stories. Marcus Williams had built this place to give people second chances. In the end, he'd gotten one too, and he would spend the rest of his life being worthy of it. The morning rush arrived. Orders piled up. The kitchen hummed with controlled chaos. And in the corner booth, 3 generations of the Williams family sat down for breakfast. Zara holding her youngest. Malik helping serve. Marcus bringing out plates of French toast, golden brown and perfect. Papa Marcus, is this the famous recipe? The famous recipe, my grandmother's, your great-great-grandmother's. The little girl took a bite. Her face lit up. It tastes like love. Marcus looked at his family, at his team, at the restaurant full of people eating food made with dignity and served with respect. That's because it is, he said. And in that moment, surrounded by everything he'd nearly lost and everything they'd built together, Marcus Williams finally understood what his grandmother had meant all those years ago. Feed people with love and love comes back. It always comes back. That is the truth of Second Dawn. That is the promise Marcus Williams kept. And that is the stories of how one man's homecoming changed. Not just a restaurant, but an entire industry, an entire community, an entire way of thinking about what work could be. The struggle continues. New predators emerge. New victims need saving. But the model exists now. The proof exists. The people who survived Derek Holloway exist, and they tell their stories, and those stories inspire others. One restaurant at a time. One second chance at a time. One act of dignity at a time. The revolution spreads. And it started here in a corner booth in Detroit with a man in disguise ordering French toast and witnessing something that broke his heart. What he built from that broken heart healed hundreds of others. That is redemption. That is Second Dawn. That is the only legacy worth leaving.